Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. This is the 24th episode of the story, where Naruto is raised by Jiraiya and Tsunade. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel after watching the video. So, let us begin. For several days, the group of 10 Konoha ninjas and the single IWA ninja had been traveling through the forests of the Land of Waterfalls almost non-stop. However, they felt their swiftness rewarded when Itachi opened his mouth to announce something. "We just crossed the border with the Land of Fire," Itachi stated. He could almost feel the relief washing over the rest of his temporary teammates. The fact that they had returned to their home country in one piece gave them high hopes of completing their mission without incidents. "Yes. Konoha, here we come," Naruto cheered. "I believe we're still a couple days away from the village," Tenzo interjected. "But I think the worst have come to pass." "Yeah. We weren't attacked by IWA ninja," Anko added. "And the chances of being ambushed by Akatsuki were higher in the Land of Waterfalls. Still, I don't want any of you to lower your guard, understood?" Itachi asked. All of them tensed up again. "I believe we could take a small break. Hanabi, see if you can locate a proper spot to rest." Hanabi nodded and expanded her sight, though she focused mostly in the terrain in front of her. She scanned the immense forest before her, and after a few seconds, she found a nice place. "I think I found something," Hanabi began. "If we deviate a little to the west, there's a clearing with a small lake and a waterfall in about 3 kilometers. That will do." "Lead the way, Hanabi," Itachi asked. A few minutes later, they arrived at the waterfall lake. The lake was big enough to both drink and even have a bath if one wanted, and they could even use the waterfall to take a shower. Plus there was enough room for all of them to sit and relax in the grass, and maybe have some food if they felt hungry, which Naruto was. "Alright, I believe we can afford to spare an hour resting," Itachi stated. "But if you plan to take a bath, eat, or whatever, do it now. Once the hour is up, we will resume our trip back to Konoha, and whoever is behind will be left behind." Itachi's tone was cold and left no room for discussion, but none of them questioned his orders. They all knew that bringing Rashi to Konoha was of vital importance. Not far away from there, 2 figures wearing black cloaks with red clouds were perched on a high tree branch. One of them had their eyes fixed on the Konoha ninjas. They finally stopped. "Should we attack now?" the first figure asked. The second one shook his head. "Not us. Let's send our minions first to soften them a little and measure their capabilities. They're a large group after all. That might tip them off of our presence and sneak past us with the Jinchuriki," the first figure argued. "We're powerful enough to crush all of them. What are you afraid of?" "Nothing, my dear partner, but let's say that I'm not somebody keen in using brute force to approach a problem," the second figure calmly replied. "Besides, this is your first mission. You shouldn't be so overconfident. Remember what happened to Haiden and Kakuzu. Don't compare me with those fools," the other Akatsuki fired back. "Very well then, we'll do it your way." "Good. Send your troops first. They'll be excellent cannon fodder." As everybody relaxed, Rashi was sitting under a tree. In his hand there was a book, though rather than reading it, he was actually writing on it. He would write something, stop, look around, ponder about something, and write again. "Hey there, Rashi," Naruto's voice said. Rashi took his eyes from his book and noticed Naruto walking towards him, followed by those 2 white-haired children. "We were going to eat now. Are you hungry?" "Thanks, but I'm not." "I'll eat sometime later," Rashi said. "I made some tea as well," the white-haired boy chimed in. "Do you want some?" "I don't think I'm going to turn that down," Rashi with a smile, as he took the cup of tea the boy gave him. "Thank you, kid. I don't think we've been introduced. My name's Hagane." "This is my sister Kaida," Hagane said, waving his arm at Kaida, who made a curtsy nod. And you already know our older sibling, Naruto. Your siblings? Rashi asked, raising an eyebrow. Adopted siblings, Naruto punctualized, realizing that Rashi noticed their lack of physical resemblances between Naruto and the twins. Well, technically, I'm the one who's adopted, but you get the gist. Yes. Those two kids look a lot like Jiraya and Tsunade, especially the former, Rashi observed. And you say they adopted you? Yeah. Jiraiya was my godfather, and Tsunade was my last living relative, even if we're only distantly related, Naruto explained. I never imagined that there would be people kind enough to adopt a Jinchuriki, Rashi noted. We were created to be living weapons, you know. And people don't want weapons to be close to them or their loved ones. Not everybody is like that, Naruto argued, crossing his arms. And sometimes they're just being ignorant. People who used to fear me because of the Kyuubi are no longer afraid of me after they got to know me better, and realized that the tailed beast within me can't harm them. Rashi's reply came in the form of a somewhat sad chuckle. Then you were born luckier than most, Naruto. From my experiences, almost no Jinchuriki has your life. Tell me, do you know how they select a Jinchuriki? Naruto knew why he was chosen to bear such burden, but he guessed it would be different with the other tailed beasts, since no other Jinchuriki were Uzumaki. First of all, Jinchuriki are chosen at a young age, Rashi began, not waiting for Naruto's answer. So they can carry the tailed beast for the longest time possible, and their minds can be more easily molded. Guess that makes sense, Naruto mentioned. All the Jinchuriki he had met were either teens or young adults. The oldest Jinchuriki he had met before Rashi was Killer Bee, and he appeared to be in his mid-30s. Second, Jinchuriki almost always tend to be orphans, Rashi continued. Because no family would want their child to be subjected to such a fate, right? Hokage guessed. You've a bright mind, boy, Rashi nodded. But that's not the only part. If a child has no family, they won't have any kind of bond or personal allegiance. And thus, there's a void the village leaders can fill. Which brings me to my last point, all Jinchuriki tend to be related to the Kages in some way, Rashi said. To ensure their loyalty to the village. Naruto was the most obvious case. Both his biological and adoptive father were Hokages. Gaara was also the son of the current Kazekage. There was also Killer Bee, who was the Raikage's brother. And Yugura, who cut the middleman and was Mizukage himself. However, it didn't appear that Utakata was related to any Kage, and Fu hailed from a village that didn't have a Kage to begin with, though she was pretty close to the village leader, Shibuki. What about you? Hokage asked. Are you related to the Tsuchikage? In a way, yes. Do you know the second Tsuchikage, Mu the Null Man? Rashi asked, but upon seeing the youth's look of confusion, shook his head. Of course you don't, he already pursued at the hands of that despicable Genjutsu. Anyway, I was distantly related to him. My father was his second cousin. After both my parents died in the first ninja war, I was taken under his wing. Shortly after that, I was made the Jinchuriki of the Four Tails. Rashi could feel the monkey's anger at being referred once again by such moniker, but decided to ignore him as usual. Naruto, if I may ask something, Rashi began. Naruto gave him a nod. How old you were when you were made a Jinchuriki? You about an hour or so, Naruto replied. Rashi raised an eyebrow. Let's say that the circumstances of my birth were kind of chaotic. Were you born the same day the Nine Tails attacked Konoha or what? Rashi asked. Upon seeing Naruto nodding, the redhead's eyes widened. Boy, I take back what I said before. Your luck is extraordinarily bad for such a catastrophe to happen the day of your birth. Luck had nothing to do with what happened that day. It was part of a deliberate plan, Naruto replied. I'll tell you the details once we're safe in Konoha, because it's kind of a long story. And not even we have the full version. I'll be eager to listen to such tale. It will be an interesting addition to my book, Rashi began. You're writing a book? Kaida chimed in. About what? Does it has romance? Can I read it? It's not the kind of book you'll enjoy, girl, Rashi replied, chuckling a little. It's mostly a record of my journeys and experiences across the elemental nations. Towns I visited, people I met, ninjas I fought, and the like. So, you're going to write about us then? An excited Kaida asked. Yes. It was exactly what I was doing before you arrived, Rashi said. Don't worry, I won't write anything bad about you. As long as you don't give me any reason to. Then be sure to include that you met somebody who could use wood release. Kaida said. Girl, as much as I'd have loved to meet him, I'm afraid that I was nothing but a young teen when the first Hokage died, Rashi said, laughing a little while shaking his head. Do I look that old to you? I wasn't talking about great-grandpa, but me. Look. Kaida made a hand seal with both hands, and suddenly vines started to emerge all around them. Awesome, right? Rashi watched with his eyes open wide in fascination as a blood limit he considered a legend manifested before him. Amazing indeed, girl. You too were born with extraordinary luck to inherit such a power. My little brother also has a blood limit, even if it's not as cool as mine, Kaida boasted. As does our teammate, Hanabi. You have quite the collection of blood limits for such a relatively small group, Rashi noticed. Not to mention another Jinchuriki. You made no expenses in case I wasn't this cooperative, didn't you? Well, I'm not going to deny it, Naruto began, as he chuckled and rubbed the back of his head. All this manpower wasn't just because of you, but because of Akatsuki. You know, the guys who want to capture us. They have some crazy strong people among their ranks. Plus, I'm not here just to fight. We believe that the chances of Jinchuriki listening to us will be higher if it's another Jinchuriki the one to do the talking, Hagane explained. Yeah, and our brother is taking a huge risk leaving the village like that, so show some appreciation. Kaida added, tapping her foot. But I did, right? I'm coming with you peacefully, Rashi replied, holding his hands in defense. Not that I had much of a choice. You could have returned to IWA, Hagane pointed out. Besides, this is just temporary, Naruto reassured. Once the Akatsuki threat is done with, you'll be free to roam the world again. Glad to hear it, Rashi nodded, as he went back to his writing. His reaction, however, caught Naruto a little by surprise. Wait, you believe me? Why I shouldn't? Rashi asked. You're in no need to promise me such a thing. So if given my predicament you tell me that, it must be true. Boy, you're surely a trusting person, Kaida pointed out. Rashi raised his eyes from his book, and gave the white-haired girl a somewhat condescending smile. Girl, I didn't get to live this old by being trusting. But over time, you learn to know which people you can trust and which you can't. In either case, I'm glad we fall into the latter category, hee, Naruto said, grinning a little. He felt like a change of topic was in order, and now was the chance. So, how many books did you write so far with your experiences? Quite a lot, Rashi stated. Would you want to read one? Hell yeah, I would. Naruto happily replied. I admit I'm not much of a reader myself, but reading about the experiences of another Jinchuriki has to be something else. I like your enthusiasm, kid, Rashi chuckled a little. I'll give you a signed copy once we reach your village. You know, our father is also a writer too, Kaida chimed in. Jiraya writes books? That's new to me, the red-headed man laughed. I can't picture him as a writer. Well, except maybe porn writer, since his pervertedness is as legendary as his skill as a ninja. Hagane sighed. Sadly, that's exactly what he writes. Not that we can tell if they're good or not, since Mom banned us from reading them, Kaida said, shaking her head a little. Poor Mom thinks we'll never grow up. Listen to your mom, child. I'm sure she knows what she's talking about, Rashi said, chuckling a little, as he continued his writing. Kaida leaned towards him, tried to get a look at what he was writing, and gave him his best smile. So are you writing about me now? Rashi just sighed. I won't be able to write much if you keep talking to me. As Hagane and Kaida bothered Rashi alongside Naruto, their last member of their team, Hanabi, took the pause to relax and meditate. Meditation has been in constant exercise in her endeavor of mastering her six paths chakra, since the usually energetic Hyuga needed a calm mind to use her new power. It was something that made her advance at a slower pace than her calmer older sister. However, as she meditated, she felt a presence. Very faint, almost like a distant star. And Hanabi wouldn't have given this a thought if it wasn't for the fact that, when she decided to focus on this presence, she noticed something unsettling. The presence had a very similar chakra to her. And other than her older sister, there was only one person with this kind of chakra. Opening her eyes, Hanabi expanded her eyesight, scanning the area in the direction of the presence. The young Hyuga gasped. Hanabi? Tenzo asked, noticing his student's reaction. Something's wrong? A large group of ninjas is heading towards us. Hanabi warned. Naturally, this drew everybody's attention, as they stopped what they were doing, and quickly gathered around the brown-haired girl, with Itachi getting the closest. How many of them? From what village? How long until they arrive? The Uchiha asked. Hanabi focused her eyesight on the potential group of enemies as she tried to find the answers her captain demanded her. About 18. At their current pace, they will be here in less than 5 minutes. As for the village, Hanabi began, as he focused on their forehead protectors. I don't recognize that symbol. Suddenly, Naruto had a very bad feeling about this. Hanabi, is the symbol a crescent moon overlapped with a sun? Yes, it looks like that. Hanabi nodded. Wait, how did you know that? Because Naruto had already fought against such ninjas, isn't that right? Itachi asked the blonde. Yeah, they aren't actually ninjas, but very advanced puppets. If those puppets are here, then Tonari Otsutsuki can't be too far, Naruto warned the others. Tonari Otsutsuki, so that's the presence I felt, Hanabi realized. Well, if he's here expecting my sister, he's in for a disappointment. Though I hope he doesn't decides to take me as his bride instead. EWWW. Even if the last time Tonari attacked us he was aiming for Hinata, we have a reason to believe that he's working for Akatsuki as well, Naruto told the others. So even if he came here mistaking Hanabi for Hinata, Rashi is still in danger. Very well then. Rashi, Naruto, stay close to me. Enko, Tenzo, have your teams cover our flanks, Itachi ordered. Very well then, Tenzo nodded. You got it. Enko replied. Finally some action. Zaku said with an excited grin. I was starting to get bored of all this inactivity. Don't underestimate Akatsuki, brat, Enko told Zaku. Or else you'll end up dead. That habit of yours is going to be the death of us, Zaku, Dosu chastised his teammate, shaking his head. You can discuss that later. Here they come. Kin pointed out, as she heard the trees surrounding them rustling. And true to her words, a trio of moon puppets leaped from the trees above them, their hands cupped. A golden chakra ball formed between them, before thrusting their hands forwards, firing the yellow projectile. Leave that to me, Zaku said, taking a couple steps forward, while raising his arms at the incoming projectiles. Decapitating airwaves. Zaku released 2 powerful cones of pressurized air and sound that successfully repelled the incoming projectiles, and lacked enough power to reach the ninjas, who just touched ground and rushed towards them. Enko made 5 hand seals, before biting her thumb, and slamming her palm into the ground. Summoning Jutsu. After the initial burst of smoke, a large, green snake appeared around both Enko and her students, coiled around them in a protective manner. Did you call, Enko-san? The snake asked, in an oddly soft and feminine voice. Indeed, Tajitsuheim. We could use your help against these enemies, Anko replied. Try to make sure none of them catches us off guard. You can count on me, the snake said, as she slammed with her tail an incoming puppet with such force, it was snapped in two. All right then. Dosu, Kin, if these guys are puppets, then your usual fighting style won't be of much use here. Switch to taijutsu and conventional ninjutsu. Anko told her other two students. Yes, sensei, the two of them replied in unison. Meanwhile, Tenzo prepared his team for another group of puppets that were coming from their direction. Kaida, with me. Let's create a wood barricade. Tenzo ordered, as his hands flew through hand seals. Hanabi, Hagain, cover us. Yes sir, the three Chunin chorused in unison, as Kaida's hands also formed hand seals. Wood release, World of Trees wall. Tenzo and Kaida slammed their hands into the ground, and in front of them dozens of wooden roots grew from the ground, interlocking among themselves, catching some of them puppets that were heading towards them. The puppets struggled to get free, but the roots' hold became harder with every second, to the point they were unable to move. Upon seeing this, some of the puppets generated golden swords made of chakra that they used to cut through the wall of wood, but trying to help the trapped puppets didn't cross their possibly non-existent mind, and charged forward. However, Hanabi and Hagain were already expecting them, both of them forming hand seals of their own. Lightning release, Thunder Spear. Hagain raised his right arm, which started to crackle with electricity, before firing a lightning bolt at the incoming enemies, hitting one of the puppets square in the chest. Fire release, Burning Palm. Flames coated Hanabi's palms as she rushed to meet the attackers head-on, and started trade blows with three of them, one using a golden sword, the other two resorting to unarmed combat. Despite being puppets, the young Hyuga found them far more skilled than she imagined. Their movements were fast and precise, blocking her strikes with acute expertise. It's as if these guys know about the gentle fist, Hanabi wondered aloud, before a revelation hit her. Because they do. We Hyugas descend from Otsutsuki. Her revelation proved to be correct when the trio of puppets pushed her into the defensive in a frightening effective display of gentle fist. Unfortunately for them, gentle fist wasn't the only thing Hanabi could rely on. The Hyuga jumped backwards, with the puppets following suit. Just as she expected. Very well then, how about this? Hanabi spread her arms wide with the palms forward, releasing a powerful kinetic wave that hurled the puppets backwards. Then, with another hand movement, she broke the momentum of one of them and pulled it back to her. The moment it was in range, Hanabi slammed her burning palm into the puppet's chest, blowing a hole into its body. The puppet fell down, and didn't get up. The other two puppets weren't deterred by seeing their partner dead, and dashed towards Hanabi. The Hyuga smirked confidently, as she adopted a defensive fighting stance. Come on, I'm not afraid of dash. Suddenly, something fell from the sky, slamming the two puppets into the ground. Something turned out to be Hagain, who used one leg to stop each puppet, stopping them and they're in their tracks. Oh come on, those were mine. Hanabi whined. This isn't a competition, Hagain chastised, as his eyes scanned the air for more enemies. Just focus on the mission, or Chunin, for crying out loud. Ugh, he always have to rub how mature he pretends to be, Hanabi grumbled, shaking her head in annoyance. Naruto, Rashi, and Itachi were fighting against a much larger number of puppets that the Offui 2 squads did, either because they were the strongest ninjas of the group, because it had not one but two Jinchuriki, or maybe both. Probably both. Fire release, Burning Edge. Itachi's katana was coated in flames just in time to parry the blow from one of the puppets wielding a golden chakra sword. The sword-fighting puppet delivered a series of vicious but precise blows that forced Itachi onto the defensive. His Sharingan flaring to life, Itachi had tried to put these beings under a genjutsu, but unsurprisingly they were immune, given their lack of a brain. His Sharingan also failed to predict their movements, since they didn't have muscles. Naruto, you fought against these creatures, Itachi began, as he pushed back the puppet's sword after parrying a blow. Any idea on how they can be beaten? Weak points, anything like that? Not really. These guys are strong, fast, and don't feel pain. The last time we fought we just overwhelmed them with brute force. Naruto said, as he was fighting other two puppets, wind blade in hand. Watch out! Rashi warned, pointing upwards. Leaping above them, there were two other puppets, holding a large sphere of golden chakra between their hands, which they threw at the two Jinchuriki and the Uchiha. Rashi, however, was already preparing a counterattack. Lava release, scorching rocks jutsu. Rashi expelled multiple bursts of lava from his mouth, that quickly solidified into projectiles of molten rock. The lava missiles crashed against the golden chakra spears, resulting in a large explosion. As this happened, Itachi's hands also ran through hand seals. Fire release, Great Fireball Jutsu. Itachi breathed a massive fireball into the cloud of dirt and smoke produced by the previous clash of attacks, much to Naruto and Rashi's confusion. But the Jinchuriki's confusion didn't last long when they saw the two puppets leaping out the cloud of ash and smoke, heading directly into the fireball. They realized of their mistake too late, and they were burned to ashes by the Uchiha's hot flames. Just because my Sharingan can't predict their movements, it doesn't mean that I don't have other ways to anticipate their actions, Itachi stated in his usual stoic tone, though Naruto could detect some hints of pride in there. Everybody, watch out! Hanabi shouted. More enemies incoming. More puppets? Naruto asked. No, these ones are alive. Hanabi replied. They're Oto ninjas. Oto ninjas. Then that means that Orochimaru must be close then, Anko deduced. Her three students immediately paled. Well, Zaku and Kin did. Dosu was better at hiding his reaction, in no small part thanks to the bandages covering his face. Oh, Orochimaru is here. Zaku almost screaming. Of course, it's not like things can go our way just once. No, 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 and no. He can't be here. He can't see us. Kin shouted, taking her hands to her head. If Orochimaru knows that we defected to Konoha, snap out of it, brats. Orochimaru won't lay a hand on you as long as I'm here to keep you safe. Anko energically replied. And even if I can't do it alone, we have more people to cover our backs. Kaida, who overheard the conversation, decided to chime in. Yeah. We Konoha ninjas take care of our own. So as long as we stick together, there's nothing to fear. Besides, if Orochimaru was close, I'd sense him, Anko told them, as her hand instinctively touched the spot on her neck where the cursed seal was. This thing burns like crazy when he's close. Naruto, watch out. An Oto ninja is heading towards you. Hanabi warned. His chakra levels are downright ridiculous. Itachi and Rashi tensed up, while Naruto made a hand seal. Shadow Clone Jutsu. A dozen of clones popped into existence, and formed a circle around the original, Rashi and Itachi, eagerly awaiting for the ninja to show up. Itachi's eyes widened when his Sharingan caught something. Naruto, Rashi, move. Itachi shouted, as he pushed Rashi to the side. 10-finger drilling bullets. Tiny white projectiles flew at them at an imperceptible speed, dispelling several of the clones, which, along the original, scrambled in an attempt to avoid such an attack. That moment, a white-haired ninja Naruto hadn't seen in a long time landed in front of them. You. Yes, me, Kimimaro replied, his face as stoic as usual. I remember you, kid. Naruto Uzumaki. I was expecting to see you here. What are you doing here? Are you working with Akatsuki? Or did you come here for my siblings? Naruto angrily asked, as he and his clones gathered again in front of him, as if forming a barrier to stop him from continuing forward. While my failure of such mission will haunt me forever, that's not why I'm here, Kimimaro replied. We have orders to capture the Jinchuriki of the Four Tails for Orochimaru-sama. And you as well, but you aren't the priority right now. Well, get this stat on that bonehead of yours. You failed back then, and you'll fail again. Just like we rescued our siblings, neither you nor your boss will get your dirty hands on any more Jinchuriki. Kimimaro Kagaya, last member of the Kagaya clan. Last time I heard of you, Zabuza claimed to have defeated you, Itachi said, narrowing his eyes at him. Naruto, do you know this man? Yeah. He was part of the group that kidnapped my siblings 3 years ago, Naruto replied, not taking his eyes from the white-haired ninja. Before you say anything, yes, I know he's dangerous. In that case, you won't complain if I say that you should let me handle him, Itachi told him. Make sure Rashi stays safe. Kimimaro started to make hand seals. You think you can handle me, Uchiha? Your Sharingan doesn't impress me. Besides, I'm way stronger than the last time the Uzumaki fought against me. Dance of the Orchid. Kimimaro slammed his hands into the grass, and the ground started to shake. Suddenly, a skeletal serpentine dragon emerged from below Naruto and Rashi were standing, who barely jumped in time to avoid it. Whoa, that's new. Naruto pointed out. Didn't you hear what I just say? Kimimaro replied. The earth continued to shake, and more bone serpents emerged, the 3 bone constructs focusing on one ninja each. That's when Kimimaro took advantage of the situation and dived for Rashi, while he activated the first stage of his cursed seal. Itachi, I'll distract these things. Naruto said as he made a hand seal. Protect Rashi. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Itachi nodded as he went to intercept Kimimaro. 100 of Naruto clones popped into existence, and they began to charge at the skeletal serpents. While they failed to inflict any significant damage, they did keep the bone constructs distracted enough. Meanwhile, Anko's team continued to fend off the horde of autonomous puppets. As she saw a couple of puppets coming at her, Kin made several hand seals. Lightning release, thunder needles. Kin grabbed a handful of senbon as her hand started to crackle with electricity, and tossed the electrified needles at the incoming enemies. One of them raised its hand forward, casting a golden chakra blast at the nettles, producing an explosion. However, when they crossed the ensuing cloud of smoke, Dosu was already waiting for them. Resonating echo burst. Given their momentum, the puppets were unable to stop in time nor dodge Dosu's invisible attack, which violently hurled them backwards. Good one. Kin cheered. No time to celebrate. More coming from the east. Dosu warned, as the bandaged ninja sensed their steps resonating through the ground. Leave those to us. Anko said, as she and Zaku rejoined them. Zaku, time to use our combo. A smirk appeared on the black-haired teen. Hell yes. I thought we'd never do it. Just wait for the right moment. Anko told him, as she started making hand seals. As a trio of puppets rushed towards them, they jumped into the air while cupping their hands, producing a golden chakra sphere between them. Anko tensed up. Now. Zaku raised his palms upward. Decapitating airwaves. Fire release, Great Dragon Fire. Zaku released wide cones of pressurized air through the holes of his palms, while Anko exhaled a stream from fire from her mouth. Both attacks merged into a massive wall of fire that engulfed both the incoming chakra blasts, as well as burned the puppets to ashes. Yeah, how do you like that one, huh? Zaku boasted. Hey, do you hear that? Dosu asked. Hear what? I can't hear anything with all this ruckus, Zaku complained. Yeah, what are you talking about, Dosu? Anko asked. It sounds like a flute. Don't you hear it? Dosu insisted. Upon hearing that, Kin went pale. Wait, a flute you say? Oh man, I wasn't expecting her to be here. Who dash, Tayuya? Kin interrupted Anko. She's a member of the Sound Five, and uses the melody of her flute to put everybody who hear it under a powerful genjutsu. I see. And we can't allow that, can we? Anko said, nodding. Dosu, you're the one with the best sound ninjutsu. And Kin, you're the genjutsu specialist, so you two take care of her. Wait. You can ask us to deal with one of Orochimaru's elite guards. We're not that strong. Kin whimpered. Yes you are. Anko snapped, getting in her face. And you know why? Because I trained you myself all these years. Under Orochimaru, you were disposable tools, but under me, you're fucking ninjas. So now go there, beat her into the ground, don't dare to fucking die, and make me proud. Yes, sensei. We won't disappoint you, Dosu said, bowing his head. Come on, Kin. Reluctantly, Kin nodded and followed his teammate into the thickness of the forest that surrounded the lake. It didn't take long for Dosu to find Tayuya. The red-headed kunoichi barely made an effort to hide herself. The marks around her skin showed that she was using the first stage of her cursed seal from the get-go. Let's make sure she doesn't play that flute anymore, Dosu suggested, as he jumped from one tree branch to the next heading towards Tayuya. Resonating echo sound wave. Dosu slammed both melody gauntlets together, producing a sound blast that expanded forward. Tayuya jumped in time before the branch she was standing upon was shattered into splinters. However, she didn't stop playing her music. Now's my chance, Kin said, making a hand seal. As Tayuya was about to land on another branch, she lost her balance for a second. But that second was enough to make her trip and fall to the grass below. What the fuck? The redhead cursed as she incidentally dropped the flute. Good one, Kin, Dosu praised as she dashed towards the falling redhead. Time to finish her. However, Kin's genjutsu only lasted a couple seconds, and while she was in mid-air, Tayuya was able to regain her balance and land on her feet. She then sprung towards Dosu and interrupted his attack with a vicious punch to the face. Finish this, you shithead mummy, Tayuya shouted. You're going to need way more bandages than those once I'm done with you. Kin. The flute. Make sure she doesn't get it back, Dosu warned, raising his voice. Kin nodded and rushed towards the flute, laying on the ground. Tayuya, being so focused on Dosu, didn't notice that until it was late. Fuck no. Don't you dare dash mine, Kin said as she was about to grab the flute. Kin, watch out. But before she could do that, a new cloaked figure appeared from behind a tree and punched Kin in the face with such force, the black-haired kunoichi was sent flying against a nearby tree. The figure then grabbed the flute and tossed it to Tayuya. Be more careful next time, the cloaked figure said. Tayuya grunted something unintelligible in return. And a thank you would be nice. I didn't ask for your help, so go fuck yourself, Tayuya angrily snapped. Very well then. I'll go help Kimimaro instead, the figure said, as he rushed towards the battlefield behind them. Of course, you can't stand being separated from your boyfriend that much, can you? Tayuya mocked, before turning her attention back to the Konoha ninjas. Dosu was helping Kin back on her feet. Alright, you fuckers have no idea how mad you made me with that little stun of yours, so prepare to get the worst beating of your life. And Tayuya's cursed seal started to spread even further, as it advanced to its second stage. This doesn't look good for us, Dosu lamented, but he wasn't sure what was more scary, Tayuya as she mutated into a human-shaped monster, or Anko if she was pissed. Though deep down, the answer was easy. Facing Tayuya it is, then. Back to the fight, Tenzo's team was also fighting the last of the remaining puppets. Several of them had surrounded the Senju twins, and were ready to fire their signature golden chakra blasts. "Sister, you're on," Hagane called. The white-haired girl nodded, as she made several hand seals. "Earth release, Earth Dome Jutsu." Kaida slammed her hands into the ground, and a dome of dense rock quickly formed around the Senju siblings, just in time when the puppets fired their blasts. The golden projectiles easily shattered the barrier. But much to their surprise, the twins were nowhere to be seen. All what remained were several pieces of charred rock. There was also a hole, but they saw it way too late. Hagane and Kaida then burst from underground behind them, the latter making more hand seals. Water release, all-devouring maelstrom. Water from the nearby lake started to form and gather around the puppets, and quickly spun around them, until it formed a water tornado. The puppets tried to break free from the powerful attack, but it was in vain. "Good one, sis. Now it's my turn," Hagane said, as he fell from above, his hands holding a massive spinning sphere of blue chakra. Sage Art, Big Ball Rasengan. Upon smashing the sphere of destruction onto the tornado of water, it exploded in a massive blast that not only shattered the puppets, but the land below as well. The water from the lake moved to fill the new empty space. "Guys, watch out," Hanabi's voice said from above, as the Hyuga floated down towards them. "More enemies are incoming. These ones are actual ninjas. And their chakra, no, that can't be right." "What can't be right?" Kaida wanted to know. But before Hanabi could reply, the answer presented itself. Wood release, deep forest emergence. Thick green roots emerged from both the land below and the nearby water. Hanabi flew back into the air, while the Senju twins jumped away in order to avoid the sudden attack. A storm of shuriken laced with electricity appeared seemingly out of nowhere. Hagane, however, managed to see it in time. Wind release, cyclone vortex. The ensuing cone of wind managed to either suck or push away the incoming rain of steel stars. At that moment, two ninjas wearing Otogekure uniforms, including face-concealing balaclavas, landed on top of one of the newly generated trees. "Another would release user?" Kaida asked in shock. "That's what I tried to tell you," Hanabi shouted from above. "These ninjas have an almost identical chakra to you too. In fact, they even look like you too, only older." "I see. At first I was surprised, but now I know who they are," Hagane said, as his surprise started to subside. "You're the clones Naruto Nizan told us about, right? Remove those masks, you aren't fooling anybody." The two ninjas did as Hagane asked, revealing their appearances. Kaida's shock grew even more, as so did Hagane, but he was better as masking it. "Who are you calling a clone, brat?" Hagane's lookalike angrily asked. "Orochimaru-sama may have used your DNA as a template to create us, but we're way more than simple clones. Don't bother arguing with them, Hebamaru. Words matter little here," the woman told her brother. "Now stand down and let us take the Jinchuriki. If you make our jobs easier, we will spare your lives." "Hanabi, I need fire." "Lots and lots of fire," the male Senju asked. "You got it," Hanabi nodded, as she started to make hand seals. "Guess you were right, Hibiko. Time to fight then," Hebamaru said, as he unsheathed the broadsword he was carrying on his back. Fire release, Crimson Phoenix Flare. Hanabi breathed a massive stream of fire that quickly took the shape of a bird, which flew towards the duo of Odo ninjas, burning everything in its wake. As this happened, Hagane also prepared his next attack. Wind release, Great Breakthrough. Hagane blew a powerful gust of wind towards the phoenix, and just like Enko and Zaku's attacks a moment ago, both jutsu merged into a massive inferno, which carbonized everything that it touched as it advanced. "Poor kids, you're so out of your league," Hebamaru said, shaking his head. "Come on, sister. I'm ahead of you," Hibiko said, as her hands flew through hand seals. Water release, wild water wave. Using the water from the ever-expanding lake as a source, Hibiko raised a wave that crashed against the incoming inferno, but it did little to stop it. Even if you use water, that's not enough to stop our combination, Hanabi boasted. We haven't played all our cards, girl, Hebamaru said, as he made several hand seals of his own. Wind release, breath of God. An hurricane formed among the water that was trying to stop the incoming fire. The hurricane then shaped the water into a tornado, while also sucking more and more water from the lake, increasing the size of the jutsu. Eventually, the water tornado was large enough to stop Hanabi and Hagane's attack. Like we said, you're nothing but kids, while we are dash, however, Hebamaru's taunt was interrupted when he felt a presence around him. They've been there for quite some time, but he was so focused on stopping the fire jutsu that he didn't notice it until now. And soon, the Oto ninja were ambushed by Kaida, who sprung from behind. You're mine, she yelled, as she descended towards them, with a kunai on each hand. Unfortunately for her, Hibiko did notice her in time, and managed to stop Kaida by grabbing her by the neck, making the younger girl drop her weapons. You lowered your guard, brother, Hibiko said, shaking her head. You almost let this little girl shank you. Sister. Hagane cried, upon seeing her predicament. Let her go or else. Hanabi threatened, as her eyes flared with a blue and white light. Or else what? Hibiko said, and laughed. Your little friend's recklessness costed you dearly. Now surrender, or she won't enjoy what I'll do next. I am like your sister, Kaida managed to say, as she tried to pry the older woman's hand from her neck. Doesn't that? Sister? Please, don't make me laugh. Hibiko replied. We may have a similar DNA, but that does not make us family. Hebamaru and Orochimaru-sama is the only family I have. Too bad then, Kaida said, before losing consciousness, and going limp. Huh? Hibiko mumbled. I swear I wasn't putting that much force onto that hold then, much to her confusion, Kaida quickly started to lose all color, her skin, hair and clothes becoming light brown, almost looking like wood. A clone. Sister, this girl just fooled Dash, but Hebamaru's scolding was interrupted when lots of presences manifested at once, followed by an horde of more wood clones emerging from all around them. Now, attack, the Kaida clones said in unison, as they unleashed a barrage of shuriken and kunai onto the Odo siblings. Sister, get close to me. Hebamaru called, as his hands ran through hand seals as fast as they could. Wind release, wind wall. A tornado engulfed both Hibiko and Hebamaru, successfully repelling most of the incoming barrage of weapons, though some managed to get by. Hanabi, now, one of the Kaida clones called. The Hyuga nodded, and flew towards the two white-haired Odo ninjas, while making several hand seals. Hibiko's face lost all color when she realized what was going to happen. Brother, stop, their dash, fire release, great dragon fire. Hibiko saw how Hanabi breathed a stream of fire at them. If that fire hit the tornado, the two of them would be trapped inside a flaming vortex that would burn them to ashes. Even if Hebamaru cancels the jutsu, he can't move until it ceases completely, Hibiko said, as she started to form hand seals of her own. I need to use a water jutsu before dash. Her thoughts were interrupted when something kicked her out of the wind barrier. She saw that, even if Hebamaru couldn't quite move completely, he was still able to move her leg in order to kick her away. No, she screamed. Hanabi's fire jutsu hit the tornado, and just as everybody expected, the Makoto ninja was engulfed in a twister of flames. Suddenly, Hebamaru, covered in flames, jumped out of the fiery twister. He tried to land on a branch, but the fire burning his body and the ensuing pain made it difficult for him to properly land, tripped, and fell. Though much to his luck, there was water below which instantly put out the flames. Brother! Hibiko shouted as she dashed towards him, jumping into the water. She managed to bring him to the surface before he could sink. Come on. Hibiko jumped onto a nearby tree branch and left her brother resting against the tree. There were plenty of burns across his body. While the water had out the flames, the sudden change of temperature had worsened his wounds. It's okay, I am okay, Hebamaru groaned as he coughed. I need some time to recuperate. Very well then. I'll buy you that time, Hibiko told him, before a scowl developed on her face. Don't dare to die, you hear me? Orochimaru-sama is counting on you, and so do I. Before Hebamaru could reply, the Chunin of Team Tenzo landed on a nearby branch, though in Hanabi's case, she just floated above it. Alright, time to take them out, Kaida said, as she got ready to attack the now weakened duo. Meanwhile, Dosu and Kin were still fighting Taiyuya, who, brewing with anger, not that it was that hard to get her like that, decided to go into the second stage of her cursed seal. Alright you shitheads, if you aren't going to let me play my music, then I'll rip your fucking limbs from your bodies, the redhead growled as she dashed towards them. Dosu protectively stood between her and the still injured Kin, arms raised in a defensive stance. He saw Taiyuya's left punch coming, and moved his arm to block it. The impact was so great it pushed the former Oto ninja backwards, leaving his arm sore, but he still smirked under his bandages. Resonating echo burst. All the power Taiyuya had put into that punch was converted into sound waves by the melody gauntlet, and released them the form of a sound blast that knocked the mutated Kunoichi backwards. Taking advantage of the situation, Dosu decided not to let her any room to breathe and dashed forward, ready to attack. However, much to Dosu's surprise, Taiyuya quickly crouched and delivered a low kick, hitting his forelegs, and made him trip and fall on his back. Taiyuya then pulled a kunai and tried to stab it on Dosu's chest. Now die already. Dosu managed to grab Taiyuya's wrist and stop her in time, but the Oto Kunoichi strength was much greater while in her current form, and the kunai slowly came closer to his chest. Damn, I can't use my sound jutsu if I can't move my arms, Dosu thought as she struggled against his red-headed opponent. Suddenly, Taiyuya got off Dosu and jumped back as she used her kunai to deflect a pair of senbon. Turning around, Dosu saw Kin back on her feet, pelting Taiyuya with her throwing weapon of choice. You think you can beat me by throwing fucking toothpicks at me? Taiyuya angrily growled. Oh, that's it. Taiyuya then made several hand seals, and took her flute to her lips. She's going to use her genjutsu again. Dosu, stop her. Kin panickingly warned. On it, the bandaged ninja replied, as he prepared to blast Taiyuya with another sound wave. However, there was something odd with the way Taiyuya was holding the flute. Rather than holding it sideways, she was holding it facing front, as if it was a blowpipe. And when Dosu felt the pain of a projectile piercing his shoulder, that's exactly what she was doing. Dosu! Kin screamed, as she rushed towards him. Taiyuya kept firing projectiles at Dosu, but this time, the Oto ninja was able to dodge them, if badly. Kin helped him to stand, as the two of them tried to dodge Taiyuya's incoming barrage of projectiles, which impacted with such force, they pierced the nearby trees. Just what the hell is she shooting at us? Kin shouted. Bullets of concentrated sound waves. Dosu replied. Really clever, she will never run out of ammo, and they can only be avoided, not blocked. That may be clever of her, but we're pretty much screwed. Kin cried. Fire release, Great Dragon Fire. Suddenly, a blaze of fire came from above, creating a wall of flames between the two former Oto ninjas and Taiyuya. A couple seconds later, Anko and Zaku landed beside Dosu and Kin. Sounds like you guys are having trouble, Zaku chuckled, before smirking at them. Zaku, do you have a first aid kit? Anko asked, not taking her eyes from Taiyuya. Zaku grunted in affirmation. It seems that girl was too much for you guys in the end. Okay, stay behind and take care of Dosu. This bitch is mine. Who are you calling bitch, you bitch? Taiyuya snapped back at her. You hurt one of my students, Anko hissed. And as his sensei, it's my duty to return that pain multiplied by 1,000. Get ready for the beating of your life. While Anko and her students fought against Taiyuya, Itachi, Naruto, and Rashi continued their fight against the leader of the Sound Five. The last member of the Kagaya clan was proving to be far more resilient than what Itachi had expected, as he was able to keep the three ninja at bay, keeping a solid defense while harassing with powerful attacks. Dance of the Orchid. TWP more gigantic bone dragons emerged from below, joining the existing three. Goddammit. Naruto cursed, as he was trying to fend off a single one. These things won't go down. Maybe we can slow them a bit, Rashi mentioned, as he started to make hand seals. Earth release, swamp of the underworld. Rashi slammed his hands down, and the ground around them started to turn into a muddy swamp. The heavy bone construct started to slowly sink. They trashed violently, but other than splashing mud everywhere, they were unable to do anything. Nice one, Rashi. Naruto praised. Watch out. Itachi warned. Neither Naruto nor Rashi noticed Kimimaro dashing at them at an insane speed, using the sinking bone serpents as stepping stones. Two bone blades appeared on Kimimaro's hands, as he readied to sink them into the red-headed man's chest. However, a black blur got between the Oto ninja and his prey, and the bone broke with a loud clang. Itachi. Naruto showed as he was about to help the leader of his squad. However, another figure, completely covered in a dark blue cloak, intercepted Naruto before he could assist the Uchiha. A gigantic brown and inhuman-looking fist emerged from one of the sleeves, punching the Uzumaki with incredible force. Ugh! Naruto groaned, but he was able to land on his feet. Another enemy? The newcomer pulled his hood back, revealing to be an orange-haired boy a few years older than Naruto. His face, which was fair-skinned, but with grayish-brown slowly spreading around it, had an expression of stone-hard stoicism. Who the hell are you? Naruto asked. For the time being, your opponent, the orange-haired teen said. But if you need a name, you can call me Yugo. I'd recommend you not to interfere with Kimimaro's fight. Naruto gritted his teeth in anger, as he prepared to face his new enemy, while Kimimaro and Itachi continued their fight. Not bad. You deserve your reputation, Uchiha, Kimimaro said, as he jumped backwards, eyeing the Uchiha, who was now surrounded by an spectral yellowish-orange ribcage. So that's your famed Susanoo? Indeed, Itachi nodded, his eyes forming the shape of the eternal Majikyo Sharingan. Consider yourself lucky, few are the enemies I consider strong enough to use them. However, their luck usually don't last much after that. We'll see then, Kimimaro said, as more bone blades started to protrude from his arms. You have no idea how much I trained after my defeat at Zabuza's hands. I swore myself I'd never fail Orochimaru-sama again. And nobody, not even the famed Itachi Uchiha, will make me break that oath. Dance of the Dandelion. Kimimaro fired several bone spikes at Itachi, which split into smaller spikes. Itachi jumped backwards as he firmly held his katana in one hand and pulled a kunai with the other. His Sharingan allowed him to analyze which flying spikes were going to hit him, their speed, and how he could deflect them. For Itachi, it was as if the world ran in slow motion, allowing him more time to think and react. From an outsider's perspective, however, it would look as if Itachi was wildly moving his arms as if he was trying to swat away a bee, even if each move was calculated. After deflecting every bone projectile, Itachi stared intently at Kimimaro, panting. Out of breath already? Kimimaro asked. If that's what it takes to deplete your stamina, then you aren't going to last long around me. Or it is a trick to make me lower my guard. I admit I can be quite arrogant at times, and such attitude costed me dearly in the past. Why don't you come and find out? Itachi said in a taunting manner. Kimimaro then pulled his own spinal cord out of his back, and wielded it as if it was a sword. Oh, I plan to. Meanwhile, not far away from there, two figures were observing the fight. Well, technically only one had enough visual prowess to appreciate every detail. His face, however, remained impassible for the duration of the battle. "How is it going, Tonari?" the first figure asked. "Inconceivable. That little girl also has a Tensigen. How is that possible?" Tonari asked, seemingly ignoring his partner's question. With his own Tensigen, he could zoom into the battle and see it with minute detail. "Only Hinata and I should have won. I'm sure you are going to put an end to such unforgivable transgression," the other man said, rolling his eyes. "The Jinchuriki?" "He seems unharmed, and still with plenty of energy," Tonari replied. "Should we attack now, Orochimaru?" A sadistic grin formed on the Sanin's face. "Why, of course we should. We can't let out minions to have all the fun, can we? Besides, I'm sure they already did a good job wearing them down." And thus, Orochimaru and Tonari decided to join the battle for Rashi's fate. Fire release, Great Dragon Fire. Anko breathed another stream of fire at the mutated Oto Kunoichi, who jumped to another branch before the flames could claim her. Tayuya then took the flute to her lips and played a quick melody, no more than a dozen notes. Suddenly, Anko felt as if somebody smashed a hammer into her head from the inside, and instinctively fell to one knee, as the world around her became blurrier. "Guh," she gurgled, as she tried to understand what was going on. While she knew that Tayuya was a genjutsu specialist, she also knew that the Oto Kunoichi had to continuously play her flute in order to keep the genjutsu active. Same went in order to control her three summoned creatures. Tayuya dashed forward, her flute in one hand with a kunai in another. Warned by killing intent, Anko tried to fight the dizziness, and jumped away just in time. The angry redhead delivered an horizontal slash, leaving a cut in her left arm. The sharp pain, however, shook her out of the genjutsu. "How did you dash?" Anko's question was interrupted by another quick melody, and she was assaulted again by the same sensation of dizziness. This time, Tayuya decided to deliver a brutal flying kick at Anko's face, which sent the snake mistress tumbling into the ground. "Anko-sensei!" Kin screamed, witnessing in horror her sensei getting pummeled. "This is the end, you bitch!" Tayuya shouted, as she leaped towards her. "This is what happens to those who betray Orochimaru-sama." Tayuya landed on top of Anko as she sank her kunai on the purplet's chest. She didn't really know if she had pierced Anko's heart as she wanted, but she was sure a stab like that had to be lethal. Blood trickled from Anko's throat. And much to Tayuya's confusion, she smirked. "Why are you so happy, you dumb bitch? Did you want to dash?" This time, it was Tayuya who was interrupted when Anko burst into a mass of snakes that wasted no time and lunged towards her. Tayuya tried to evade them by jumping back, but two of them managed to tightly wrap themselves around her body. "First of all, it was Orochimaru who betrayed me, not the other way around," the real Anko said, as she landed behind Tayuya. She pulled out a kunai of her own. "Second, not only did Orochimaru betray me, his student, but also betrayed his village, as well as countless others. And third, in case it wasn't clear, you made me angry as fuck, so you have the wonderful fortune of being the target of my venting. I'd like to see you try, you bitch." Tayuya shouted, before disappearing in a puff of smoke, leaving a log behind. "Sensei. She's between the trees. Shout west of your position." Dosu managed to shout. "Good hearing, kid," Anko replied, as she headed towards the position. As she dashed towards Tayuya, she heard the sound of a flute. Like before, it was very quick, only a few notes. "Oh no, you aren't going to catch me with that dirty trick again," Anko said, as she made a hand seal, while sending a burst of chakra through her body. Release. Anko's world became blurry for a fraction of a second, before it returned back to normal. Anko smirked at Tayuya's bright hair flashed before her eyes. Many hidden shadow snake hands. Snakes shot from under Anko's sleeve and wrapped around Taiyuya's neck. The Oto Kunoichi barely had any time to gasp before the snakes pulled her towards Anko with incredible force. Anko then hurled her into the air, before slamming her back into the ground. Taiyuya bounced against the grassy ground as if she was a rubber ball, before falling back with a thud. I see you improved your genjutsu, Anko stated, as she walked towards the downed Kunoichi. From what I heard, you had to play your flute continuously for it to have effect. It was a valid strategy when you were with your teammates and were about to ambush your enemies, but against an enemy who knows about it, not so much, right? That's why you developed this version. A genjutsu in short bursts. Only disables your enemies for a moment, but that moment is enough for you to strike. However, that also has a glaring flaw, and is that if an opponent knows what is coming, they can preemptively dispel the genjutsu before it takes effect. You think you're so fucking clever, Taiyuya groaned, as she struggled to get back on her feet. Oh, I know I am, Anko said, with a wide smile. Now let's H. Anko screamed as she fell on her knees, her hand instinctively going to the source of the pain, the spot where the cursed heel of heaven was placed. It felt as if she was being branded with a searing iron. Sensei, her 3 students said at once, as they landed beside her. Are you okay? Dosu asked. Orochimaru, he's here, Anko hissed, as pain coursed through her body. You have to warn the others. As Anko fought Taiyuya, Itachi, Naruto, and Rashi continued fighting Kimimaro and Yugo. If Kimimaro was proving to be extraordinarily resilient before, he was a force to be reckoned with now that he had backup. Naruto, however, decided that it was time for them to get some backup as well. He bit his thumb, before making several hand seals. Itachi, Rashi, get close to me. Naruto called them, before slamming his hand into the ground. Summoning Jutsu. After a massive burst of smoke, an equally massive toad appeared before the 2 Otogakure ninjas, with Naruto, Itachi, and Rashi standing at the top of it. The toad was smoking from a pipe, and had one of his hands resting over the pommel of a short sword, relatively speaking. A boss summon? Rashi asked, sounding impressed, as he looked down at the creature he was standing onto. You're one interesting kid. I have the feeling this battle will make quite an addition to my journals. While I admire your optimism, Rashi-san, this battle is far from over, Itachi told the older man. Hey, Naruto, Gamabunta said, as he eyed Kimimaro and Yugo below. Please tell me you didn't summon me to deal with those little things. Don't judge them by their size, boss, Naruto replied. They've been giving us quite some trouble. If you say so, Gamabunta finally conceded, as he unsheathed his short sword. Very well then. I'll take care of them for you. But I'm expecting some compensation after this, you hear me? Don't worry, boss, I won't forget it, Naruto replied. Let's take advantage of your summon to attack them. They'll be wide open once they try to dodge it, Itachi suggested. The other 2 nodded. Gamabunta brought down his short, yet also massive sword at Kimimaro at Yugo. And while the orange-haired teen jumped away, Kimimaro didn't move, much to everybody's surprise. The impact created a large fissure in the ground, the resulting shockwave blowing a powerful gust of wind and dust in every direction. Ha! Overconfident idiot, Gamabunta said, shaking his head, as he pulled the sword back. Only that, much to his shock, he was unable to. What the? When the dust dispelled, the giant toad could see that there was a giant claw made of bones kept the sword pinned to the ground. The toad boss tried to pull it, to no avail. What the hell? Watch out! Itachi called. Naruto and Rashi saw how a black blur clashed against a mostly white one multiple times in a row, each time a metallic clang echoing through the area. Eventually, the 2 figures landed on a tree branch below Gamabunta. You're fast, Uchiha, those eyes are hard to fool, Kimimaro praised. But reading my movements alone won't do you any good. So far, you didn't make a single attempt to attack me. Maybe. But what matters in a fight is not how many times you attack, but how many blows do you need in order to take down the opponent, Itachi countered, as he gripped his kanata tighter. In my case, you'll need plenty of them. My bones can't be broken, Kimimaro boasted, as bone spikes grew all around his body. Actually, I only need one hit, Itachi replied. And before you answer, yes, the hit has already landed. You just don't know it yet. Suddenly, the world around them started to melt, and was replaced by a red and black hellish landscape. Itachi and Kimimaro lost all color, becoming shadowy beings. Kimimaro looked around in confusion, before realizing what was going on. Ah, yes, the Uchiha and their famed genjutsu, Kimimaro replied. You think I have no means to counter this? Orochimaru-sama has the same eyes you have, and has trained me to withstand their illusionary powers just in case I ran into one of you. Breaking this genjutsu will be easy. Kimimaro made a hand seal, and sent a burst of chakra through his body. But nothing changed. What? Release, he repeated the process, but the result was the same. What kind of genjutsu is this? As you're about to learn, Orochimaru doesn't have the same eyes as mine, Itachi corrected, as he started to walk towards him. Barbed wire appeared out of nowhere, and wrapped itself around Kimimaro. The last of the Kagaya was lifted into the air, with 2 additional wires pulling his arms in opposite directions, leaving him in a crucified pose. The name of the jutsu is Tsukuimi, Itachi said, as multiple Itachi clones appeared around him. Let's see if your mind is as strong as your bones in order to survive 72 hours of uninterrupted torture. The 72 hours in Kimimaro's mind were merely 3 seconds in the real world. After such intense torture, the last Kagaya clan member fell to the ground, his mind completely turned into shreds. Itachi, however, fell to one knee, as he felt how the jutsu had drained his chakra. I was hoping that I wouldn't have to use this jutsu so soon, Itachi groaned, heaving a little. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's dispose of this guy as well. However, before Itachi could do anything, a gigantic snake appeared out of nowhere. The Uchiha's reflexes were good enough to dodge it in time. He was about to prepare a fire jutsu, when his Sharingan caught sight of another snake. However, this snake didn't attack him. Instead, it slithered towards the unconscious Kimimaro, and swallowed his body whole before leaving. These snakes Orochimaru must be here, Itachi concluded. Meanwhile, Team Tenzo was still fighting against the Senju clones. Though a better way to phrase it would be that Hibiko was trying to shield the injured Hebamaru from the relentless attacks from the 3 Konoha Chunin. Water release, water wave. Once again, the water of the lake around them rose in the form of a massive wave. Hebamaru took a step forward, as he made several hand seals. His body glowed with a white aura. Wind release, great breakthrough. The male ninja exhaled a massive gust of wind, powered by nature energy, that managed to stop the incoming wall of water. However, the effort made his injuries to punish his body even more, and fell to his knees, groaning and clutching his side. Brother! I told you to take it easy. Hibiko chastised him. You need me to deal with these devils, Hebamaru said with a cough. They just got the jump on us. I know I can dash enough, a third voice said, softly but firmly. Between the 2 Oto ninja and the Konoha Chunin was another Akatsuki, one with white hair, pale skin, and Tensigan eyes. Tonari, Hebamaru whispered. Orochimaru wants you to help him capture the Jinchuriki, Tonari told the adult twins. I'll take care of these ones. Wordlessly, Hibiko helped her brother to his feet, and the 2 of them went to help their master. Tonari then turned around, and locked eyes with Hanabi. So, you're Tonari, Hanabi said, placing her hands on her hips. The creep who wants to marry my sister. Sister, the Otsutsuki replied. I was going to ask you how you got a Tensigan, and your relation to Hinata that might explain part of it. Though there are still some things that I'm not aware of. Yeah, and one of them is when somebody tells you no, Hanabi deadpanned, before punching her palm. So, ready to get your ass kicked? Your overconfidence is charming, kid, Tonari replied, chuckling in a condescending manner. I know about you three. You might possess powers beyond most humans, but you lack the experience and proper training to handle them. Fighting me means death. I might spare you as not to upset Hinata, and for other reasons. He then looked at Hagane and Kaida. But I have no reason to let you live. The three Chunin quickly slipped into fighting stances, as Tonari raised his hand to cast an attack. However, before he could do anything, multiple brown wooden roots emerged from below and the sides, wrapping themselves around the Akatsuki, immobilizing him. I hope you weren't planning to fight this man on your own, were you? Tenzo's voice said, as he landed beside them. You might be Chunin, but this enemy is beyond your capabilities. Of course not. I knew that you were around. I was stalling for time so you could join us, Hanabi replied. While I'm doubtful of the truth of that statement, let's leave that for later, Tenzo said, as he jumped towards the immobilized Tonari. Now, let's put you to dash. Suddenly, a shockwave exploded from Tonari's body, shattering his wooden bindings, as well as nearby tree branches, into hundreds of splinters, while Tenzo was violently hurled backwards, his body falling with a splash into the water. Sensei, the three Chunin screamed in unison. Don't make the mistake of thinking that just because you caught me off guard before, you can compete with me, Tonari dangerously hissed. You might have wood release, but your execution is so rudimentary, it's barely a threat. Let's see how do you like my execution then. Kaida angrily shouted, as she started to make hand seals. Wood release, wood dragon jutsu. Kaida summoned a serpentine dragon made of wood that lunged at the Akatsuki. Tonari merely made a few hand seals. Tensigen chakra cloak. Tonari's eyes flashed, and the Otsutsuki started to glow with a teal aura. He raised his hand, generating a green glowing orb of chakra. The glow flew towards the wood dragon, which exploded upon contact, shattering the dragon to splinters. Is the best you dash? The Otsutsuki was interrupted when his Tensigen caught three more dragons emerging from under him, advancing towards him while leaving enough distance to each other to make sure they couldn't be destroyed all at once. Seeing no way but up, Tonari flew into the air. However, his flight was interrupted when a white blur shot at him like a missile. Heavenly kick of pain. Before he could realize what was going on, Tonari's face was hit by Hagane's foot, the kid managing to put much more power into his kick than his small size would let one guess. As he bounced backwards, Hagane took a sealing scroll and unsealed a giant Fuma shuriken. The shuriken started to crackle with electricity. Enjoy this, Hagane said, before tossing the giant electric shuriken. Shadow Clone Shuriken Jutsu. Tonari saw how a mass of crackling shuriken flew at him, the loud whirring noise they were making piercing his ears. The Otsutsuki, however, wasn't fazed, and made another set of hand seals. Truth-seeking balls. With a flash of green light, Tonari summoned a pair of truth-seeking balls. The balls merged into a shapeless mass, which quickly took the form of a shield, covering the Otsutsuki. The shuriken all shattered as if they were made of rotten wood the moment they crashed against the improvised barrier. He can use truth-seeking balls too? Hagane asked, as he landed on a branch. This is bad. As far as I can tell, they can nullify ninjutsu and are an unbreakable defense against physical attacks. But just like a diamond can cut another one, maybe the balls can resist their own power? Hanabi. I know, Hanabi said, having just summoned other two black orbs as well. Your mastery of the Tensigen is incomparable, girl, Tonari praised. But you still have a long way to go until you can reach my level. Kimimaro. Yugo shouted, seeing what had happened to his friend. He forgot about Naruto and Rashi and went to his aid. Sorry, but no, you aren't leaving, Naruto said, as he made a hand seal. Shadow Clone Jutsu. An horde of Naruto clones appeared from thin air, already dashing towards Yugo. Get out of my way! Yugo shouted, his voice becoming deeper, as his other arm also mutated, becoming larger and more monstrous looking. Even if all Yugo did was swing his arms wildly, his swings carried so much power they destroyed a good chunk of the clones coming at him. Yugo let out screams of rage the more clones he destroyed. That young man seems to have turned into a wild animal all of a sudden, Rashi observed. We should proceed with caution. Whatever is his power, he has little control over it, Naruto added. Let's take advantage of that. I'll kill you. I'll kill you all. Yugo bellowed, as he jumped towards the two Jinchuriki atop the giant toad. Yugo's cloak was ripped apart as flesh growths emerged from his back, taking multiple shapes, such as claws, wings, and even an additional pair of arms. Now however, before Yugo could reach his targets, he swatted away by a giant webbed hand. He was so focused on Naruto, he completely forgot that the giant toad he was standing on wasn't going to just stay there and watch. Good one, boss. Naruto cheered. We're almost done here, now let's dash. Suddenly, the earth started to shake, and from under Gamabunta's feet, a giant jet black snake emerged, bursting from underground, and wrapping itself around Gamabunta at imperceptible speed. ACK, the toad croaked, as he tried to break free from the snake's hold. Hello there. My name's Kurikiba, and I shall be your executioner, the giant snake hissed. To think that I'll be the one to put an end to the infamous Gamabunta Orochimaru-sama is truly a gracious ally. Orochimaru. Naruto paled upon hearing that name. Is that him who dash? The answer should be obvious, Naruto-kun, a soft but chilling voice said. Naruto turned around, and saw the snake Sannin standing before him. Both him and Rashi quickly slipped into a defensive stance, with Naruto pulling out his wind blade. It has been so long since we last met, isn't it? From your little incursion in the land of sound, if I remember correctly. Back then you were a rookie genin, yet from what I've been told, you raised to jonin. Time surely flies, doesn't it? Orochimaru of the Sannin, Rashi mentioned. This day surely gets more interesting with each passing second. Oh, you heard of me? I'm flattered, Orochimaru said, giving the two Jinchuriki a chilling grin. His yellow eyes turned red as he activated his Sharingan, while his hands started to fly through hand seals. This is something you'll find mostly interesting as well. Fire release, Great Fireball Jutsu. Orochimaru opened the fight with the Uchiha signature jutsu, breathing a massive fireball at the two Jinchuriki. Rather than being intimidated by an attack of such scale of an element strong against his affinity, Naruto merely smirked and made several hand seals as well. Wind release, Vacuum Vortex. Naruto cast his arms forward, creating a spiraling vortex of wind, which quickly started to absorb the fireball, storing and compressing the fire inside an invisible orb of wind. Both Orochimaru and Rashi looked at the display in awe. A wind jutsu that can counter fire attacks? Rashi repeated. Kid, you're indeed sure something. Naruto smirked at Rashi. And that's not even the whole thing. Waving both arms in a circle before Thursdaying them forward, Naruto released all the fire he had absorbed in the form of a powerful stream. The snake Sannin was forced to jump away into the trees below to avoid being incinerated. Heh, this is one of the jutsu I developed with Asuma-sensei's help. Naruto proudly thought, while directing his improvised flamethrower. Fire won't be a trouble anymore. We should go after him, Rashi suggested. I know Orochimaru is powerful, but I don't think I know the extent of his abilities. I mean, who would remember if he had a Sharingan? Agreed. The less room we leave him to breathe, the better. Naruto said, before making some clones. I'll leave some clones here to help the boss. Both Jinchuriki leaped after the Sannin, while Gamabunta continued to struggle against Kurikiba, and the clones prepared to attack the giant snake. They landed on a large tree branch and saw that Orochimaru was perched onto another one. And just that moment, Itachi landed beside him. My, 3 versus 1, isn't that a bit unfair? Orochimaru said with a chuckle. As if on cue, Hebamaru and Hibiko landed on another branch above Naruto and Rashi. Now that's much better. What are your orders, Orochimaru-sama? Hebamaru asked. Keep the 2 Jinchuriki busy, but try not to harm them much, Orochimaru stated. His glinted with anticipation as they fixed on Itachi. Itachi Uchiha here is the biggest threat. We'll have to deal with him first if we want our mission to succeed. Understood, the adult twins said in unison as they leaped towards the 2 Jinchuriki, with Hebamaru unsheathing his broadsword. Finally, some payback for what you did last time. Naruto didn't say anything, just shot the twins a look of pity, before he and Rashi prepared to fight them. Naruto! Itachi called, while his eyes were still fixed on the Sannin. Sage mode, now. Are you sure? The blonde stammered. Itachi turned around, looking at the Oto twins, before sending Naruto a determined stare. Yes. Now do it. Itachi ordered. Naruto nodded, and made his most common hand seal. Shadow Clone Jutsu. 2 clones popped into existence, and jumped away in different directions. Upon seeing this, Orochimaru merely chuckled. You know what to do, kids, the Sannin told them. Hebamaru and Hibiko nodded, and dashed towards the escaping clones. Not so fast, Hebamaru said, as he sliced the clone from the back, dispelling it instantly. Hibiko, meanwhile, made several hand seals. Earth Release, Rock Bullet. Hibiko conjured a large rock in front of her, which shot forward towards the other Naruto clone. Upon impacting, the clone was instantly dispelled. You tricked me with that the last time we fought, Hebamaru replied, as he and his sister returned to their original positions. But rest assured that such thing won't happen twice, the white-haired man hotly stated, as he and Hibiko lunged at Naruto and Rashi. And while they fought, Orochimaru and Itachi got ready for their own one-on-one fight. The 2 of them opened the fight by making the same sequence of hand seals, almost in perfect synchrony. Fire Release, Great Fireball Jutsu. Both Itachi and Orochimaru exhaled a massive fireball each at the other. The 2 fireballs, equal in power, clashed against the other, unable to push the other backwards, resulting in a burst of fire that set the trees around them ablaze. Those eyes don't belong you, traitor, Itachi coldly told him. I must thank fate for this chance to right a wrong that has been haunting me for so long. It is fate who favors me, Itachi-kun, Orochimaru said in a jovial tone, as his grin widened. So far, I've been unable to discover the secrets behind the Mangekyo Sharingan. But if I capture you, or at least take your eyes, that will be one problem less I'll have to worry about. The Tsukuyomi I used before took a good portion of my chakra reserves, and Kami knows what kind of modifications Orochimaru grafted into his body. No, I can't win this with brute force. I have to pace myself, wait for an opportunity to strike, and end the fight in a swift blow, Itachi thought, as he pulled a handful of shuriken from his ninja tool pouch, and tossed them forward. Orochimaru merely pulled out a kunai from under his cloak, and with the aid of his Sharingan, expertly deflected the shuriken thrown at him. However, as he did that, Itachi was charging at him, his right hand firmly holding the handle of his katana. As if he wasn't even surprised, Orochimaru merely blocked the strike, but Itachi's momentum pushed him backwards. You'll have to do better than that, Itachi-kun, Orochimaru taunted with a grin. I plan to, Itachi said, as his other hand dropped something. Much to his surprise, Orochimaru saw it was a flash grenade, but he realized of that too late. The grenade exploded, filling the area with a bright white light. Even if he closed his eyes in time, there were another pair of eyes that he was using and took the brunt of the attack. Arg! Orochimaru yelled, as he took a hand to his head, while keeping the other one up in a defensive stance. According to our reports, you have 4 snakes attached to your back. One of those snakes has a Byakugan, which I presume you were using, right? Itachi told him. Orochimaru's grin of smugness had turned into a grimace of pain and anger. Well, not for much longer. Very well. I don't need the Byakugan to defeat you, Uchiha. Orochimaru said, before a snake emerged from his mouth. Said snake opened its own mouth, vomiting a sword, which Orochimaru took no time to grab. Do you know what's this? The sword of Kusanagi, if I must guess, Itachi said, readying his own katana as well. Don't worry, I'm prepared for that. I find that doubtful, Orochimaru said. Suddenly, several snakes burst from underground and wrapped around Itachi, pinning his arms against his body, just as Orochimaru lunged at him, stabbing the sword of Kusanagi into his chest. Itachi then turned into a black mass, before bursting into a murder of crows, which started to fly in circles around Orochimaru. Of course, it would never be this easy, Orochimaru mentioned in mild resignation. And why didn't the protective seals carved in my skull work? Is his genjutsu level so good he can bypass them? The Sannin thought in mild frustration. While Orochimaru's skull seals offered him some protection against genjutsu, they were mostly designed to keep people like Yamanaka to use mind-probing or mind-controlling jutsu on him. They couldn't just stop the brain from being fed wrong information. Not to mention that against a genjutsu user of Itachi's caliber, those seals were of little use. It's amazing that, despite having the same eyes as yours, you still managed to trap me into one of your genjutsu, Orochimaru said. Your eyes are not the same as mine, Itachi answered, his voice coming from every direction at once. Orochimaru made a hand seal, releasing a burst of chakra through his body, undoing the genjutsu. He watched in satisfaction how the crows started to dissolve into nothingness, but much to his confusion, only half of them disappeared. What? Among a cacophony of screeching caws, the crows all dived at Orochimaru, more precisely his face, and tried to peck his eyes out. I see. He mixed some real crows with illusionary ones. Crafty, really crafty, Uchiha, Orochimaru said, making several hand seals. Lightning release, flash burst. Orochimaru's body crackled with electricity as lightning coursed through his skin, shocking the crows away before disappearing in a puff of smoke. Sensing danger, the Sannin spun on his feet and raised his sword of Kusanagi in order to parry the blow from a large sword made of golden flames. Said sword was being held by Itachi Susanoo, which was just a ribcage with a skeletal arm attached to it. It seems I'm not the only one with a legendary blade in their possession, Orochimaru commented. The sword of Tatsuka. Given that you were in Konoha when I unleashed my reanimated Kages, that's how you defeated them, right? Yes. I defeated Tobirama Senju with this blade, Itachi answered. Now, you will share his fate when I seal you as well. Itachi Susanoo grew another arm and a head, before muscles and skin covered its body. It raised its arm, and tried to slam Orochimaru with it. The Sannin, however, easily avoided the blow by jumping it backwards, and the sword only ended up cutting some, admittedly large, tree branches. Susanoo already? I'm really flattered, Orochimaru said, grinning mischievously. While I'm not keen on using my Mangekyo Sharingan, I can't afford to hold back against an opponent of your caliber, Itachi declared. Akatsuki can't be allowed to capture any more tailed beasts. And you think you can stop us? Orochimaru taunted, as his hands flew through hand seals. Lightning release, snake thunder. Orochimaru raised his arm at Itachi, which was crackling with electricity. A snake made of lightning shot forward, quickly wrapping itself against the Susanoo, before biting its neck. The whole snake blew up, as if a lightning bolt fell from the sky onto Itachi. However, when the light and dust disappeared, Itachi and his Susanoo were still there, even if they were now standing on a crater. Your defense is impressive, I'll give you that, Orochimaru complimented. Or did you put me under another genjutsu while I was casting the jutsu? Are you going to attack me from behind while I'm busy striking down an illusion? Itachi smiled a little. That's the beauty of fighting a genjutsu user. Eventually, you start to doubt reality itself. But to answer your question, why don't you attack and find it? I intend to, Orochimaru said. But rather than Orochimaru, it was one of the giant snakes that he had summoned before who lunged at Itachi. The Uchiha, however, reacted in time and slashed it with the blade of Tatsuka, unsummoning it instantly. It was then when Itachi felt something biting his neck. Ow! What the? Itachi's hand flew to his neck and grabbed a little snake, who wriggled within his grasp. You were so preoccupied with me and my giant snakes, you failed to notice the little ones, Orochimaru cackled. And while its size is rather puny, I can assure you that the poison that it injected in your system is quite potent. When did you? Itachi slurred, the potion already taking effect. The world started to look blurry, and Orochimaru's words sounded distorted. Right when we first clashed. I'm aware of the power of the Sharingan, but your eyes can be fooled if I can focus them on something else. I wanted to see if I could defeat you myself, but I admit that the power of the Mangekyo Sharingan is too much for me, Orochimaru replied. He twirled the Kusanagi in his hand. Now ready to die, Itachi. I can't wait to make your power my own. Not waiting for the Uchiha's reply, Orochimaru dived into the grass, digging underground. The next instant, a giant snake emerged from under Itachi, catapulting the Uchiha into the air. The giant snake opened its mouth, revealing the sannin between its jaws, ready to skewer his opponent. Die! Amaterasu! Both Orochimaru and his giant snake were engulfed by a mass of black flames, breaking their momentum. Curiously, the giant snake broke into a multitude of smaller snakes, while Orochimaru fell to the ground, screaming. Itachi, however, managed to regain his balance, and landed on his feet. I need to find Anko. Only she can heal me from this poison, Itachi said to no one in particular, and went to look for the snake mistress, hoping she wouldn't be too busy. As Itachi left, Orochimaru, as he was being consumed by the black flames, opened his mouth, and regurgitated a new body, shortly before the old one was burned to ashes. That was a close one, Orochimaru said, nodding heavily. Even if he was able to escape the attack, so much damage and pain wasn't easy to brush off, not to mention the huge amount of chakra his shed skin replacement consumed. But at least I got rid of the Uchiha for some time. With him out of the picture, I can finish the mission. Not far away from there, Gamabunta was still struggling against Kurikiba, the giant snake proving himself to be extraordinarily strong. Stop resisting, Toad. Let death claim you, and your suffering will end, Kurikiba hissed. I don't know about my suffering, but yours is about to begin, the giant toad said, as his dewlap swelled. He then shot a stream of oil, not at the snake, but upwards. The oil naturally rained down, splashing both toad and snake. Just what are you doing? The giant snake asked, as he felt his grip on Gamabunta slipping. Oil is awfully slippery, isn't it? Gamabunta said, as he pushed the snake away from him. Let's see how can you deal with an enemy you can't wrap around. Meanwhile, not far away from there, the two Jinchuriki were fighting against the two white-haired Odo ninjas, who were proving to be formidable opponents. Wind release, breath of God. Hebamaru blew a massive tornado at the two Jinchuriki. As Naruto and Rashi held onto the nearby trees in order to not be sucked away, Hibiko made several hand seals. Wood release, ironwood armor. Several vines quickly wrapped around her, piling onto each other until they formed something akin to a chrysalis or a cocoon, which instantly disappeared in a poof of smoke, revealing the Odo Kunoichi now wearing an armor made of wood, which only left her eyes visible. I'm going in, Hibiko said. The white-haired woman jumped into the tornado. Vines shot from the armor, and wrapped themselves around nearby trees or rocks in the ground, acting as anchors. When she was near the two targets, several vines shot at them. "You're mine," she yelled. Fire release, fiery cataclysm. Rashi breathed a massive stream of fire, which was quickly amplified by the giant tornado, engulfing Hibiko completely. Rashi then smirked. "You youngsters think you're so strong, don't you?" Rashi taunted. "But youth and power means little if you keep making such mistakes. Don't you know what happens when wind clashes against fire?" However, much to his and Naruto's surprise, Hibiko emerged from the flames. Half of her armor was burned, but it quickly rebuilt itself, almost looking as wounds rapidly closing. "And you old men think you know everything because you lived for long," Hibiko angrily seethed, as she wounded her arm back. A large, curved blade of extremely sharp wood formed from her bracers. All-cutting forest blade. Rashi jumped backwards just as Naruto got between the two of them, his wind sword activated. The sharpened wood blade clashed against the sword of wind, neither of them being able to cut each other, as they struggled to push the other back. "Naruto, duck," Rashi said from behind. Naruto disengaged Hibiko and did as Rashi told. The white-haired woman saw how the red-headed man lunged at her, his fist wounded back and coated in small rocks, forming a compact gauntlet of stone. Earth release, fist rock jutsu. Hibiko instinctively reared back, but she wasn't fast enough to avoid the incoming punch. While the wooden faceplate softened the blow, it carried so much power it sent her flying backwards, drops of blood falling from her mouth. "Sister!" Hebamaru cried, as he rushed to assist her. "Now's my time to strike," Naruto said, leaping from a tree branch while making several hand seals. Wind release, bounce. When Naruto touched the ground, a burst of wind from beneath his feet catapulted him upwards, almost as if he had bounced off, heading towards Hebamaru. The white-haired man, however, saw Naruto coming, and with a powerful roundhouse kick, the blonde was sent crashing against a tree. "Not so though without your sage mode, are you?" Hebamaru said in a taunting manner. However, much to his surprise, rather than slam against it, Naruto once again bounced against the tree's surface, flying towards the Oto ninja. Hebamaru had no time to protect himself from the incoming attack, and soon he found his face at the wrong end of Naruto's fist. Like his sister before, done by a powerful punch to his lower jaw. Naruto landed on the grassy ground beneath him, no bouncing this time, with Rashi soon joining him. "Nice jutsu you got there," Rashi complimented. "I don't think I've ever seen something like that before." "Thanks. I spent the last few weeks trying to come up with more creative wind jutsu," Naruto explained. "I had an idea for a jutsu that would allow me to fly. Wind release, bounce is based upon that idea." "You certainly caught that hothead by surprise," Rashi said, pointing at Hebamaru, sprawled on the ground. "It's not that hard. They may be strong and possess rare bloodline limits, but I think their own power blind them," Naruto said, shaking his head. "Those kids are indeed powerful, but their tactics and teamwork could use a lot of improving," the red-haired man commented. "The way they fight remind me of some genin out of the academy. Whoever trained them did an overall poor job. These kids are actually clones grown in a lab, whose age was accelerated by unknown means," Naruto explained the older man. "They are as powerful as my siblings, maybe even more. But they don't have not even a tenth of their experience." "Let's finish them off," Rashi said, taking a step forward, but he was stopped by Naruto. "Wait," the blonde said, as he grabbed Rashi by the shoulder. "Could we avoid killing them? They're kind of important to me and my family." Rashi looked at Naruto in the eyes, shooting him a pleading look. While sparing your enemy in the heat of the battle would be considered a foolhardy decision, he could see that Naruto's request wasn't a foolish or selfish one. "Very well then. Let's knock them out," Rashi suggested. "Then I can use an earth release jutsu to immobilize them." Naruto nodded. "Thank you." The two of them walked towards the downed white-haired twins, trying to get back on their feet as badly as they could. However, before they could get any closer, a massive snake tail slammed down, forcing the two Jinchuriki to jump backwards. Orochimaru landed between them and the two Oto ninjas. Just when I got rid of Itachi, my children fall before you too, Orochimaru said, sounding disappointed. Guess luck won't favor me without taking something else in return. You got rid of Itachi? What did you do to him? Naruto asked, between panicked and angry. If Orochimaru had grown strong enough to defeat Itachi, then they were in serious problems. You should worry more about what's going to happen to you and your Jinchuriki friend, Naruto-kun, Orochimaru said, as his long tongue licked his lips, while his eyes glinted with a red light. A large brown snake slithered its way around Orochimaru, while at the same time acting as a barrier for the twin Oto ninjas. If anything, this is proving to be an interesting day. You don't get to fight a Sannin on a regular basis, Rashi commented. My next journals are going to be quite the read. I'm afraid the only thing anybody will write about you in the near future will be your epitaph, Orochimaru hissed, before lunging at them. Now fall to your knees. Fire release, Crimson Snake Fawn. Anko breathed a large stream of fire, which split into smaller ones as it moved forward. The smaller streams then took the shape of snakes and wrapped themselves around its target, the last of Taiyuya's Doki demons. All the snakes bit the giant creature, while detonating at the same time. When the ash and dust dispelled, the creature was sprawled on the ground, defeated, before it disappeared, leaving a poof of smoke behind. Is that the best you have? Anko said in a taunting manner. Not in the slightest, you fucking hag. Taiyuya angrily snarled. Now prepare to dash. Taiyuya was interrupted when she saw Itachi Uchiha landing behind Anko. The redhead's eyes grew wide, and color started to vanish from her face. Oh shit. No, just no. Taiyuya said, taking several steps backward. Orochimaru-sama didn't say anything about fighting fucking Itachi Uchiha. And the redhead turned around and leaped into the trees, disappearing behind them. Anko turned around and smikered at Itachi. Hey, good job scaring her away. That's one less problem to be worried about. I take you took care of Orochimaru. Itachi shook his head. Not in the slightest. His hand darted towards a spot in his neck. He managed to slip a small snake into my body. It bit me. I can't even say no more, Anko said, as she started to look for something in the hidden pockets inside her coat, until she pulled out a small vial. Yeah, I know those snakes. They're called marble needles. Real pain in the butt. Here, take a shot of this, and after a few minutes of rest you should be good to keep fighting. Thank you, Itachi said, as he did what Anko instructed. But be careful, I don't have many more antidotes on me, the purplet warned him. Don't worry. Orochimaru won't trick me again, Itachi assured her. Unfortunately, I left both Naruto and Rashi alone against him. You should go and help them. Anko's mouth formed a wide grin. You don't have to tell me twice. Meanwhile, not far away from there, Tonari continued their fight against Team Tenzo. As the Otsutsuki floated above them, Tenzo's hands flew through hand seals. Wood release, Great Forest Jutsu. Brown wooden roots grew from below, lunging at Tonari. The Otsutsuki merely smirked and made a hand motion. His two truth-seeking balls shot at the incoming attack, and the moment they touched the wood, it instantly rotted and turned into ash. Nothing. That defense is impenetrable, Tenzo said in frustration. And you just realized of that now? Tonari mocked. And the best part, it can be also used as offense. With another hand motion, the black orb stretched and expanded, as they took the shape of large nail-like spears, before shooting themselves at Tenzo. Fortunately for the wood release user, two other black orbs appeared in front of him, merged, and took the shape of a dome. The spears bounced against the dome, quickly recovering their original form. Thank you, Hanabi, Tenzo earnestly said. That was a close one. This man is powerful, but I noticed that his number of jutsu is pretty limited. If all he can do is using telekinetic blasts and truth-seeking balls, we might be able to build a tactic around that, Hagane suggested. Still, don't underestimate him, Hagane. A ninja of ancient times once said, "Don't fear the man who practiced 10,000 jutsu once, but the man who practiced a single jutsu 10,000 times," Tenzo quoted. His number of abilities might be low, but if he's skilled, that's all what he needs. Not to mention that he can nullify all our ninjutsu, Hanabi added. Come on, those balls must have a weak point, Hagane insisted. No jutsu is perfect. All of them have vulnerabilities. Not this one, I can assure you of it, Tonari said, with a mocking smirk. Also, do you want to see something new from me? I wasn't going to use this, given that you're just children, but if you insist, way to go, Hagane, Kaida deadpanned. Tonari cast his hand at Tenzo and his students, and the two truth-seeking balls started to spin in a circle in front of it while they glowed with a golden light. Quickly, behind me, Hanabi said, as she put herself between Tonari and the rest of her teammates, as she molded her own black orbs into another protective dome. Golden Will Reincarnation Explosion. The two golden balls merged into a sphere of pure energy, energy which was released in the form of a golden beam of chakra, carving a path towards Team Tenzo hidden behind the shield. After a second of delay, the area the golden beam touched was engulfed in a massive linear explosion, digging a large trench in the ground. Hanabi undid the shield, and everybody looked around at the destruction caused by such a jutsu. Incredible if it wasn't for Hanabi, Kaida stuttered, still processing the power the last Otsutsuki possessed. You'd be dead where you stand, Tonari finished the sentence. His eyes then drifted towards her brother. So, what do you think, young man? Do you still think you can stand against this power? However, Hagane's answer was something Tonari didn't expect in the slightest. Come on, attack now. All at once. Before he can summon the black orbs again. Hagane shouted. Well observed, Hagane. Tenzo praised. Kaida, you and me will cover your brother's flanks. Hanabi, cover us from above. Yes sir, the three Chunin chorused back. Tonari was taken aback. Hagane's words made him realize that he no longer had truth-seeking balls to protect himself with, and found that he was unable to create more, at least for the time being. This kid, how did he? Tonari was unable to gather his thoughts as he saw how the members of Team Tenzo went after him, Hanabi through the air while the others jumping from one tree branch to another, while all of them started to make hand seals. Kaida and Tenzo were the first ones to attack. Water release, water gun. Earth release, crushing avalanche. Kaida expelled a stream of water at Tonari, while several rocks were conjured out of thin air above him, falling down after coming into existence. I don't need truth-seeking balls in order to avoid these infantile attacks, Tonari said, as he raised each of his arms against the incoming elemental blasts and repelling them with a kinetic blast. Whatever you do, I can counter. Counter this then. Hagane replied, as he furiously weaved hand seals. Lightning release, lightning flash. Hagane's body started to glow with a white light, as lightning sparks crackled around it. His teammates and sensei quickly covered their eyes. Unfortunately for Tonari, he found what the jutsu did too late, when his Tensigen was overwhelmed by a searing white light, threatening to burn his retinas. My eyes! Tonari screamed, as he instinctively covered his eyes with his hands, in a vain attempt to nurse the pain. My eyes! How dare Hanabi, now! Tenzo shouted. In an instant, Hanabi appeared in front of the now blinded Otsutsuki, her palms covered in fire. Fire release, 8 trigrams, 64 burning palms. Hanabi started to deliver a flurry of palm strikes at Tonari. However, much to her shock, while she got some few good hits, the Otsutsuki managed to stop her by grabbing her wrists. I've been blind most of my life, Tonari seethed, his eyes still closed. You think a little trick like that is enough to beat me? Displaying a deceptive amount of force, Tonari hurled Hanabi against the ground. Tenzo quickly moved to catch her, but due to the sheer force she was launched, both of them ended up slamming against a tree. As this happened, however, Hagane had leaped towards Tonari and prepared for the kill. Okay, I managed to gather as much nature energy as I could for this attack. It should be enough to end him, the white-haired boy thought. Sage Art, Big Ball Rasengan. However, just as the large chakra spear was about to hit the seemingly unsuspecting Otsutsuki, two new truth-seeking balls formed out of nowhere, merged and formed a protective barrier around him. No! Hagane cried, as his jutsu hit against the improvised shield. Look at that, I recovered my truth-seeking balls just in time, Tonari said, sporting a confident smirk. Now, let's put you in your dash, crack. What was that? The Otsutsuki asked, not liking the sound of that. More cracking sounds were heard, as cracks started to form around the black barrier, much to both Tonari and Hagane's amazement. What? No. How could you dash? Tonari said in shock and frustration, before the Rasengan exploded and overpowered the barrier, shattering it in a million pieces. Even if Tonari didn't took the brunt of the attack, the resulting shockwave was enough to submit him to the same thing he had done to Hanabi just a few seconds ago, only 10 times stronger. In less than a second, Tonari was hurled into the ground with such force into the forest, it blasted several trees away, and created a large crater. Wow, Kaida said in awe. You nailed him. I think I did, Hagane said, panting. How? His sister inquired. Truth-seeking balls are supposed to nullify ninjutsu. All of it. I'm still trying to figure it out, Hagane said, as he started to think. Could it be the nature energy of the attack? We can worry about that later, Tenzo said, as he hobbled towards them, with a limp Hanabi on his arms. I know you must be exhausted, but I need you to heal Hanabi. She sustained some serious injuries from that last impact. Sure thing, Hagane nodded. Tenzo gently placed Hanabi on the ground, and the white-haired kid started to heal his injuries, starting from the most grievous, to the less ones. Meanwhile, Tonari laid on his back against the crater his body had formed upon impact. His eyes still hurt. His whole body hurt. He was having trouble understanding what was going on. How could he be beaten by mere children? Even if one of them had the same eyes he had, she shouldn't even be able to touch him. But what puzzled him the most was how the truth-seeking balls had failed to protect him. How could that be possible? The truth-seeking balls were the ultimate elemental combination. Their yin-yang release should nullify any ninjutsu, no matter how big or powerful. Might be a Kugan princess. Tonari softly cried, an image of Hinata shooting him a pitiful look appeared before him. How can I pretend to be worthy of you, if I allow a bunch of children to? Suddenly, besides Hinata, an image of Naruto appeared. The blonde was looking at him with a mocking expression, almost stifling a laugh. That vision filled Tonari with rage. How dare that blonde hick mock him on top of stealing what was rightfully his? He would make him pay. Both him and everybody who submitted him to such humiliation. Something inside her Tonari broke, and the body of the Otsutsuki was overflowed with power. He could feel his head throbbing in pain, but he didn't care. The aura of the Tensigan chakra cloak returned, only this time it shone brighter, almost forming flames around him. His body elevated into the air, the new power coursing through his veins, restoring his energy and slightly healing his wounds. Four truth-seeking balls appeared around him. So much power, Tonari said in awe, as he looked at his own hands. Did my emotions awake this power? I knew other stages existed, but experiencing them myself I don't feel like I'm going to lose. Naturally, Tonari's comeback wasn't unnoticed by Team Tenzo, who were still covering Hagane as he healed Hanabi. The hell? How is that guy back again? Kaida whined. I thought you nailed him for good. I thought so as well. Hagane said, panic seeping through his voice. What do we do? Kaida asked. Tonari aimed his hand at the group, the four black orbs orbiting around it as they started to glow with a golden light. Everybody paled. They knew what was coming, except this time they didn't have Hanabi to protect them. Without letting Hagane finish, Tenzo scooped the youngest Hyuga between his arms and ran away. Everybody, flee! Tenzo ordered. Run in different directions, he won't be able to hit all of us at once. Regardless of Tenzo's tactic, Tonari had already decided on his target. The boy who had bypassed his defenses and humiliated him. Perish, you accursed child, Tonari hissed, as he moved his hand towards him. Golden will reincarnation explosion. Tonari fired another golden beam, this one being thicker, and glowing with a brighter light. As it progressed, the beam carved a thin line towards its target, and after a second delay, it produced a line of massive explosions. Brother! Kaida screamed, upon seeing her twin being engulfed by the chains of explosions. Now let's see if RGH. Tonari gargled, as the pain coursing through his body increased tenfold, forcing him to land. Damn it! My body was too injured to withstand the backlash from such a heavy jutsu. Sorry, Orochimaru, but I can't provide you any more assistance, and Tonari quietly flew away from the battle. While Tonari was fighting Team Tenzo, Orochimaru was facing the two Jinchuriki, who were now assisted by Anko. Multiple hidden shadow snake hands. A multitude of snakes emerged from under Anko's sleeve, all of them lunged at Orochimaru while hissing furiously. Orochimaru merely smirked, and brandishing the sword of Kusanagi, beheaded all of them with a series of quick and extert swings. Really, Anko-chan? Do you expect to defeat me by using my own tools? Orochimaru mocked, as he grinned at her. I expect to defeat you using every tool I can get my hands on, Anko replied, as she started to make hand seals. Blondie, support me here with some wind jutsu. Fire release, Great Dragon Fire. Naruto nodded, and weaved the signs of one of his most used wind jutsu. Wind release, Cyclone Vortex. Anko expelled a stream of fire at Orochimaru, which was magnified by Naruto's wind attack, resulting in a massive tornado of flames, nadrously advancing towards Orochimaru, burning to ash everything they touched. Orochimaru, however, wasn't fazed. Two white snakes emerged from the cloak's neck, while Orochimaru made several hand seals. For a regular ninja, that combination might be impressive. But for me, not so much, Orochimaru confidently said. Wind release, Great Breakthrough. Water release, Tearing Torrent. Typhoon Water Vortex Jutsu. Orochimaru's snakes expelled two streams of water that coiled around each other, while Orochimaru blew a powerful gust of wind from his mouth, creating a massive, raging torrent that clashed against Anko and Naruto's combination attack. The Sannin waited expectantly for his attack to overpower theirs, but such thing didn't happen. His smirk slowly disappeared as the wall of flames devoured the torrent, while continuing its advance towards him. What? How can this be? The shocked Orochimaru said, as he jumped to the ground. There was no time to ponder what was going on, and no place to hide but down. Earth release. Hiding like a mole jutsu. Orochimaru dug deep underground, and the firestorm safely passed him, leaving a field of scorched earth before. Of course, he wouldn't be safe for too long. He's underground. Naruto said. Let's dig him out before he can ambush us. Leave that to me, boy. Rashi replied, as he started to make hand seals, before slamming his hand into the ground. Earth release, opening earth rising excavation. The earth started to shake, as multiple earth pillars shot from the ground, one of them launching the surprised Orochimaru into the air. As the Sannin pondered what could have happened, a loud, whirring sound filled the air. That sound, no, it can't be. Orochimaru said in horror. But it was wind release, Raisin Shuriken. Orochimaru's Sharingan saw how Naruto, in Sage mode, tossed his most powerful jutsu at the Sannin. Even with his modified body, there was no way he could survive the attack. There was only one thing he could do, and he didn't have much time before the attack struck. The Sannin opened his mouth wide, regurgitating a white snake, which tried to move as far from the Raisin Shuriken as possible. Seconds later, the attack struck, exploding into a sphere of razored winds which teared the Sannin's body to shreds. He's trying to use his shed skin replacement jutsu to avoid your attack, Enko pointed out. Target that snake before he can generate a new body. Earth release, Earth-style wall. A huge wall of stone rose between the Konoha and IWA ninjas, and the spot where the snake landed. Hibiko landed on top of the wall, while Hebamaru landed behind Naruto, Enko, and Rashi. Once Orochimaru climbed out of the snake's mouth in his new body, he joined his surrogate daughter. You entered Sage mode, Orochimaru observed, after noticing Naruto's golden eyes. How? You'd like to know, wouldn't you? Naruto taunted in return, giving the Sannin a foxy grin. You often boast how much of a genius you are, why don't you figure it out yourself? I can tell that bothersome Uchiha and his genjutsu had something to do with it, a displeased Orochimaru said. While Naruto wasn't going to confirm it, the Sannin was right. Turn out Naruto hadn't created 2 clones, but 4. Itachi had used a genjutsu to cloak them from others, making sure to keep Orochimaru's attention on him. The clones went to hide in a safe place, and began storing nature energy. Once they had enough, one of them dispelled. I have to admit, it was careless of me not to count that you guys would figure out a way around my Sage mode, Naruto said, causally placing both arms behind his head. But you guys should have counted that I'd figure out a way around your way. This changes nothing. You aren't the only one among those present that is able to use senjutsu, Orochimaru countered. I already beat Hokage's clone once, and I can do it again, Naruto replied. Yes, but can you do it while you fight against me? Orochimaru asked, and fast as lightning, lunged at Naruto, followed by Hibiko and Hebamaru. We're going to need some high ground, Naruto said, as his hands flew through hand seals. Earth release, moving core. The blonde slammed his hand into the ground, raising a large stone pillar, almost looking like a hill or a small mountain. As this happened, Rashi's mind came with a way to use this to his advantage. His hands quickly went through a chain of seals. Lava release, volcanic bloom. Lava started to erupt from around the 2 Jinchuriki and Konoha Kunoichi, flowing down in every direction, forcing the Sannin and his twin minions to back down. Very well, Rashi, Enko praised, patting him on the back, before turning around. Meanwhile, I'm going to make sure that other fucker doesn't blindside us. Hibiko, we need to neutralize that lava. Attack with me, Orochimaru ordered, as she and the white-haired young woman went through the same chain of seals. Water release, water wave. Both Orochimaru and Hibiko expelled a stream of water from their mouths at the incoming lava, generating a cloud of steam. They intensified both the pressure and cold temperature of the burst of water, until the lava was starting to solidify. Lava release chakra mode. The curtain of steam split in 2, revealing the Jinchuriki of the 4 tails enveloped in an armor made of motlin lava, dashing at Orochimaru. The Sannin's Sharingan glinted with a crimson spark, and expertly dodged backwards while pulling the blade of Kusanagi, and quickly stabbing it into the Jinchuriki's shoulder. Ack! Rashi cried, as Orochimaru pushed further, making the old man to fall on his back against the ground. You underestimate me, Rashi-san, Orochimaru told his prey. Rashi, however, grinned. It's you who overestimate yourself, Rashi said, before it transformed into Naruto, and disappeared in a cloud of smoke. The earth started to shake, and from below, Rashi, wearing his lava armor, emerged, dropping embers and chunks of molten rock everywhere. Said chunks of molten rock started to gather around Rashi's reared fist, forming a gauntlet of lava around it. Orochimaru parried it with the Kusanagi, but that was what Rashi was expecting. Grinning, the older man gripped the blade of the sword, while holding Orochimaru's arms with his other hand. "I got him," Rashi stated. "Naruto, this is your chance. You can count on me," Naruto said, as he created several clones. One of them helped the original to create a Raisin Shuriken, while the others went to make sure Hibiko didn't interfere. Victory was close. "Huh?" Naruto said, his sensorial abilities picking up a massive spike of chakra. "What is this dash?" The place was shaken by a chain of explosions. But most distressing was that he had sensed Hagane's chakra massively dropping. Hagane. What the dash? Naruto's distraction also extended to his clones. And unfortunately, it was all Hibiko needed. The white-haired woman quickly weaved a chain of sings. Water release, water dragon jutsu. Hibiko's cheeks puffed up, expelling another stream of water, this one taking the shape of a macist dragon. The dragon opened its jaws, swallowing the Naruto clones, which were instantly poofed, Orochimaru and Rashi. And in the latter's case, the water had the unfortunate effect of turning his lava armor into brittle rock. Seeing his opportunity, Orochimaru grinned, showing his sharp fangs. His neck stretched in an unnatural manner, and the Sannin sunk his fangs into the Jinchuriki's neck, piercing the layer of thin rock that covered him. "What the?" was all that Rashi said before he lost consciousness, and fell into Orochimaru's arms. "Rashi, no!" Naruto yelled, as he dashed to save his fellow Jinchuriki. Would release, would Dragon Jutsu. Or he would have, if Hibiko didn't create several wooden dragons to keep him at bay. Excellent. It would have been better if we could capture Naruto-kun as well, but for the time being we'll settle for just one, Orochimaru said, nodding. Everybody, we're done here. Fall back. As if on cue, Kurikiba emerged from underground and opened his jaws. Carrying Rashi above his shoulder, Orochimaru jumped inside his mouth, followed by Hibiko. Alright, let's leave, Orochimaru said. Wait a minute. Where is brother? Hibiko asked, sounding distressed, as she scanned around the area, until she found him. Wrapped in snakes, with Anko holding a kunai to his neck. Listen, Orochimaru, I know that you don't give a shit about your subordinates, Anko yelled. But I know that this one is special to you. So how about an exchange? Let the Jinchuriki go, and you can have him back. Hibiko looked at Orochimaru with apprehensively. Master? What are we going to do? But Orochimaru didn't acknowledge Hibiko's question. Kurikiba, get us out of here. What? Hibiko asked in shock. The giant, jet black snake snapped his jaws shut and dug underground. Rashi! Rashi! No! Naruto yelled as he futilely rushed towards the escaping snake. And inside the snake's mouth, before darkness claimed him to never be released again, Rashi had one last thought. I'm sorry Naruto, I guess I won't be able to write about this day. Rashi's still living body laid unconscious on the hard stone floor of an underground cave. 8 figures watched him, 6 of which were mere shadowy projections. The Jinchuriki of the 4 tails has fallen to Akatsuki, Pain declared. Good job on your first successful capture. You honor me with such kind words, Pain-sama, Tonari replied, bowing a little. I already assured you that I would be an excellent asset for Akatsuki. Yes, you proved to be useful, Konan added, though her tone revealed some unpleasantness. Come on, we need to seal the beast immediately. If I may, Obito interjected. Before we begin, however, there's something you need to know. Zetsu here has finally located the hideout of the Jinchuriki of the 8 tails. Yes. The Jinchuriki has been moved to a place called Valley of Clouds and Lightning, the white half of Zetsu stated. It's a place deep within the land of lightning, and its multiple mountains make it hard to traverse. Of course, no natural formation is obstacle for our abilities, the black half boasted. The Jinchuriki has minimal escort, probably in an effort not to draw unwanted attention, so snatching him shouldn't be that hard, the white half helpfully added. Very well then. In that case, he needs to be captured immediately, Payne said with a nod. Deidara, I believe that due your flight capabilities, you're the best suited to traverse such strenuous terrain. Take Kisame with you. Understood, sir. That man won't stand a chance against my art, HN. Deidara shouted. While I'm not one who turns down a chance for some action, shouldn't we help you to seal this one first? Kisame questioned. With just 6 doing the sealing it will take quite some time. Payne shook his head. Capturing the Jinchuriki is the hardest part of our mission, that's why we need to collect them as soon as possible, Payne explained. Once they're in our grasp, the sealing won't be a problem, since no village has found out any of our hidden lairs. Besides, I'm sure we will be done with the sealing already once you two return with the 8 tails, Conan added. Alright then, Kisame said with a nod, before he and Deidara's projections disappeared. Now that that's out of the way, let's begin, Payne declared. Summoning Jutsu, demonic statue of the outer path. Konoha Hospital, a few days later after Rashi's abduction. So, how is he? A male voice asked. Any progress? He's still stable, Hokage-sama, the medic Nin told Jiraya. Though even if your son is out of danger for the time being, I can't tell when is he going to wake up. Thank you, Doctor, Tsunade said. I'll leave you alone, the medic Nin said, leaving the unconscious white-haired kid with his family. Our poor son, Jiraiya said, as he ran a finger through Hagane's bandaged face. I swear that I will make whoever did this to you pay tenfold. Hagane's survival was a miracle. From what Tenzo could tell, the boy had been gathering as much as nature energy as he could while he ran away from Tonari using his bloodline limit, and jumped away the moment he sensed Tonari was about to fire. However, even if he was able to avoid the initial blast, he was caught by the ensuing chain of explosions. If it wasn't for all that nature energy strengthening his body, Hagane would have died then and there. Naruto managed to keep the boy alive with his rudimentary knowledge of medical ninjutsu, as well as giving him regular chakra transfusions. The only silver lining was that the Akatsuki ambush had happened in the Land of Fire, not far away from Konoha, and they were able to get back home in just a couple days. Naturally, Naruto had taken this as good as anybody would expect. Losing yet another Jinchuriki to Akatsuki had been a huge blow to his morale, and Hagane's status didn't make it any better. During the first 2 days, all the blonde did was sit beside the kid's bed, completely silent, never answering all those who wanted to talk to him, either being his parents, Kaida, Shizen, or even Hinata. If he was deliberately ignoring them, or his depression sunk him into some sort of trance, nobody could tell. It was during the 3rd day that Naruto broke his silence. Hagane's like this because of me, Naruto whispered. Which was a big mistake, given that among those present in the room was Tsunade. She immediately turned around, and shot Naruto a stare full of anger. Oh no, you won't. Tsunade said as she stomped towards the blonde. You aren't going to take the blame for this, you hear me? Whatever happened to your brother was tragic, but it's not your fault. In fact, I'd say it was thanks to you that brother is still alive, the other person present in the room, Kaida, added. Tsunade then groaned, and pinched the bridge of her nose. Naruto, we already went through this with the Utakata fiasco. Why do you always feel the need to think that anything that goes wrong during a mission is your fault? I'm not saying that you shouldn't feel bad for what happened, but don't think for a second that it's your fault. You weren't even the squad leader. I'm his older brother. I had to protect him, Naruto said. No, Naruto, Hagane doesn't need you to watch over him, Tsunade had stated. Young as he is, he's a chunin who got earned the rank when you earned yours. But no buts. Tsunade interrupted him. She then grabbed him by the shoulders and pushed him towards the door. Hey, what the hell? Mom, Naruto protested as he tried to push back. You've been here for too long. Do you think Hagane will wake up faster just because you're here? Get some fresh air already. Go visit your girlfriend. Tsunade said, as she finally pushed him out of the room. And we're in a goddamned hospital, so cut down the yelling. Tsunade yelled, before slamming the door shut. Naruto sighed, lacking the energy to fight her. Not eating anything in 2 days and not barely moving from a chair won't do anything good to your body. However, another part of him told him that his mother was right. He remembered when Hinata visited Hagane and tried to talk to him. But Naruto was so depressed, he barely registered her presence there. Reflecting on that, that wasn't something a good boyfriend should do. I better apologize to her, Naruto said, as he started walking. Maybe I should buy her some cinnamon rolls just in case. How are you feeling today? A male voice asked. Better, another male voice replied. Today I could finally eat without wanting to throw up immediately afterward. Just try to take it easy, Itachi, a woman advised. That poison was a really nasty thing. You're lucky to be alive. Turns out, Hagane wasn't the only one who had to be hospitalized upon arriving to Konoha. The leader of the operation himself, Itachi Uchiha, also needed urgent medical intervention. While the antidote provided by Anko had proved to work at first, the poison symptoms started to show the day after the battle's conclusion. Apparently, the marble needle snakes had improved their poison since Anko got that antidote, which now only served to slow down the damage caused to the body. Once again, it was thanks to Naruto's knowledge on medical ninjutsu that managed to keep the Uchiha alive until an actual medic could heal him. And even if the poison was now out of his body, the effects would take some time to disappear, meaning that, for the next couple weeks at the very least, Itachi would have to spend his time locked inside a hospital room. Don't worry, brother, Sasuke began. I swear that Orochimaru will pay for doing this. All of the Akatsuki will pay. It's because of them that most of our clan is dead. Sasuke-kun, Shizen softly chided. Sasuke, no, Itachi said, shaking his head. While Akatsuki needs to go down, you can't let feelings of revenge to guide your actions. You almost died, Itachi, Sasuke pointed out, a scowl developing on his face. Aren't you angry? No, wait, let me rephrase that. Had Akatsuki threatened to kill me, wouldn't that make you angry? Indeed it would have, Itachi admitted. But I would have at least tried to keep my anger in check. Remember, Sasuke, our clan met its downfall because they act upon their feelings and cast reason aside. Whatever, Sasuke scoffed, looking aside. If you're in the mood for lecturing me, your health must be getting better. I'm going to train. Sooner or later, Akatsuki will come here to get their hands on Naruto and Fu. And with that, Sasuke left. Little brother, Itachi said after Sasuke had left. While not as bad as Naruto-kun, this Akatsuki debacle is taking a toll on Sasuke-kun as well, Shizen said, shaking her head. Keeping that anger of his under control is such an exhausting task, I understand you. And I deeply appreciate all what you've been doing for him, Itachi reassured the medic Nin. Akatsuki is like a wound that never fully healed. Worse, every time Akatsuki wins, it's like rubbing salt into the wound. And I'm afraid of what Sasuke might end up doing if he ends up losing a loved one at their hands. Sasuke-kun knows the possibility. We're ninjas, after all. Death always follows us wherever we go, Shizen said in a mildly admonishing tone. Sasuke knows that way too well. He was surrounded by death long before he even became a ninja, Itachi reminded Shizen. There was a moment of silence between the two of them. Shizen walked towards the window and gazed at the village, or at least the past that could be seen from there. Sasuke did bring a good point, Itachi said, changing the topic. Akatsuki now has, at the very least, 6-tailed beast in their possession. Only 3 remain. One of them is hidden in the land of Lightning, while the other 2 are here. While it's not their modus operandi, Akatsuki already invaded a village before in order to capture a Jinchuriki, not to mention how many times Obito and Orochimaru had attacked Konoha. Whatever they plan to do to capture Naruto and Fu, we won't like it. After a few seconds of staring through the window, Shizun turned around. A determined look appeared on her face. Well, they'll like our welcoming party even less, the black-haired woman said. Akatsuki isn't invisible, we have defeated them in the past. They might have won the last few battles, but the war isn't over. Itachi couldn't help but chuckle at Shizun's enthusiasm. Glad to see that you're not intimidated by such prospect, the Uchiha said. Of course not. As Jiraiya-sama said, a ninja is one who endures, Shizun stated. And we Konoha ninjas have endured more than most. Whatever Akatsuki plans, we'll be ready for it, especially now that we know about all its members. If our ninjas had half the determination and resolution you have, I'm sure of it, Itachi said, smiling gently at Shizun. Shizun, take care of Sasuke, since I won't be able to do it for the time being. Shizun nodded. You don't even need to ask. Torture and Interrogation Department. Despite the failure to stop Akatsuki and the number of injured, Itachi's squad hadn't returned home empty-handed. Enko was able to subdue and capture Hebamaru, and thanks to her snake's paralytic poison, she was able to bring him to Konoha in order to be interrogated. Right now, the purplet was watching through a one-way mirror how a Yamanaka ninja scanned his mind. A broad-shouldered man wearing a dark trenchcoat with his face marred by two huge scars walked towards her. Any progress? The man asked. Enko shook her head. Very little for the time being, Ibiki, the snake mistress replied. It seems that his skull was carved with seals that act as barriers against mind scanning or mind manipulation. If we get any cooperation at all, we will have to beat it out of him. Understandable, the scarred man said. Orochimaru had no trouble leaving him behind. If he possessed information that we could use against that bastard, at the very least he would have tried to kill his underling. As much as pains me to talk positively about my former sensei, he's a very methodical man who rarely leaves loose ends, Enko hissed. Even then, Orochimaru is still a man, and every man makes mistakes, Ibiki stated. This might have been one of them. Yes, there might be the case, Enko stated. While this man doesn't appear to take Orochimaru's betrayal as such, I saw the way his twin sister reacted. Even if we can't get any useful information out of him, we might be able to use him to turn the girl against her master. That would be nice. We never had any kind of leverage against him. This might be the first truly important minion of Orochimaru we got our hands onto, Ibiki stated. Speaking of which, how are your brats? I heard they returned from the mission in a pretty bad shape. You heard right, Enko said. However, they weren't as bad as others. They didn't even need to be a whole day in the hospital before being discharged. While they got some pretty bad wounds, there was nothing that would leave any kind of permanent effect. Ibiki couldn't repress a smile. Is that relief I hear in your voice, Enko? It almost looked like you care about those brats. Enko turned at Ibiki and frowned. What the hell is that supposed to mean? Just because I'm kind of a sadist, doesn't mean I don't care about a lot of people, you know. Kind of. Ibiki laughed. And I wasn't talking about that. Those brats used to work for Orochimaru. I thought you hated everybody related to that traitor. I thought that too, Enko admitted. But the more I got to know those kids, the more I realized they really didn't know what they were getting themselves into. Thankfully, seeing Orochimaru abandon one of his minions made them realize that joining Konoha was the smart thing to do. They were almost like Enko left the sentence unfinished. Come on, say it, Ibiki prodded. They remind me of how I used to be, and how I used to see Orochimaru, Enko finally said. And I swore I'd never let them end the same way I did. Give yourself some credit. I think you turned out pretty well, Ibiki complimented. Though don't get yourself too attached to those brats. We don't want any softy working here. Who the hell are you calling a softy, Ibiki? An outraged Enko angrily asked, as she stomped towards the interrogation room Hebamaru was in. Alright, get that Yamanaka out of there. Once I'm done with that fucker, he'll beg me to kill him. Hyuga Estate. After buying a bag of the best cinnamon rolls he could find in Konoha, Naruto headed towards his girlfriend's house. He was hoping that Hinata wouldn't be too mad at him, and that the sweet treats would do the trick. Then again, he never remembered Hinata being truly mad at him, ever. Even if they sometimes had arguments just like any other couple, they usually solved them in a civilized manner. Even then, bringing this won't hurt, Naruto told to himself, as he finally reached the door. There were a couple of guards guarding the entrance to the compound as usual. What wasn't usual, however, was that these men belonged to the main house, given that their exposed foreheads lacked the much-hated caged bird seal. Guess this is the result of Hinata's equality policies, Naruto thought, as he mentally shrugged. Hello there, Naruto-san, one of the Hyuga guards brightly greeted him, confusing Naruto even more. Why a main house member would be so happy if he was doing a job that used to be part of the branch house's duties? Are you here to see Hinata-sama? Yeah, Naruto replied with a nod. Do you know if she's too angry with me? Last time she talked to me, I was kind of a jerk to her. Ah, yes, we heard about that, the other guard said, albeit he didn't sound disapproving. However, Hinata-sama was aware of the circumstances surrounding your mood back then, and doesn't blame you for your reaction. She decided that giving you space was the best course of action, and that you'd come back to her once the moment was right. And given that you're here now, guess that she made the right choice. Hinata-sama is in the outdoor training ground, sparring with Hanabi-sama, the first guard told Naruto. Alright, thanks a lot, Naruto said. The blonde was a bit relieved to hear that. There was the chance that those guards would be playing a prank of him, and Hinata was actually beyond furious, but he pushed the idea aside. Naruto has always been welcome among the Hyuga, and they treated him with nothing but politeness and respect. Oh look, Naruto-san is here. Welcome, Naruto-san. Came to see Hinata-sama? She will be happy to see you. As he walked across the compound, he was warmly greeted by more Hyugas, all of them main house, if their naked foreheads were of any indication, and all of them in an exceptionally good mood. Weird. Just what happened to make these guys so happy? Naruto inwardly wondered. And now that I think about it, I only saw main house members. What happened to the branch house? Hello, Naruto, are you here to see Hinata-sama? A familiar voice said, one that sounded far more stoic than the average Hyuga. She will be happy to see you. She has been quite worried about you these past days. Oh, hey, Niji. Naruto happily greeted Hinata's cousin. Say, can you tell me what's going on? Why is everybody so happy? In an incredibly rare display, Niji smiled at Naruto. While the smile was genuine and warm, it was also a bit mischievous. Are you saying you can't tell? The Hyuga prodigy stated, almost chuckling. Come on, look a bit closer. It didn't take too long for Naruto to notice what Niji was talking about. He realized that, unlike the other times he saw Niji, the Hyuga wasn't wearing his forehead protector, leaving his forehead bare. However, the caged bird seal was nowhere to be seen. Whoa! The seal! It's gone! Naruto shouted, pointing at Niji's forehead with a shaky finger. Indeed it is, Niji confirmed with a nod. And good riddance. This marks a new era for the Hyuga clan. Wait, all those happy Hyugas I saw on my way here, they were branch house members? Naruto asked. Niji nodded once again. Former branch house members, Niji punctualized. The clan division is no more. All of us are equals nows, thanks to Hinata-sama. Hinata did this? Naruto asked, his shock only growing. How? Why don't you ask her? Niji replied. She's sparring with her sister in the backyard training ground. And indeed, true to Niji's words, Hinata was sappering with Hanabi in the outdoor dojo, under the watch of some Hyuga and a couple of moon acolytes. Naturally, Hinata's Tensigen registered Naruto's presence the moment the blonde entered her field of vision. Naruto-kun. Hinata happily chirped, before a gentle fist to the abdomen nearly made her fall. Ouch! Hanabi-chan, what are you doing? Hey, just because your boyfriend is here doesn't mean that the spar is over, Hanabi said, showing a cheeky smile. You can't afford those kind of distractions in a real battle. Hinata merely rolled her eyes. Okay, I get it, Hanabi replied, before she turned around. Everybody, move. I bet Hinata-nichan wants some alone time with her boyfriend. A pink blush developed on Hinata's cheeks. Do you have to word it that way? You make it sound as if Naruto-kun and I are going to do it here. You aren't? Hanabi asked, feigning innocence. Kidding. We're leaving. After a couple minutes, the outdoor dojo was completely vacant save for the two members of Kurenai's assault squad. They decided to sit in one of the benches surrounding the training area. I'm glad to see you, Naruto-kun, Hinata said, as she moved her face closer to Naruto's in order to kiss him, a kiss Naruto happily welcomed. And are those cinnamon rolls I see? Heh, there's no way to keep a surprise for you with those eyes, Naruto chuckled, as he handed the bag with the baked goods to Hinata, who was practically drooling. Consider them my apology gift. Apology? Hinata asked, before shaking her head. There's nothing to apologize for, Naruto-kun. Hanabi-chan told me how the mission turned out, and your resulting mood was understandable. Though I admit, I'm glad you feel better now. It took Mom to literally kick me out of the hospital, but yeah, I'm a bit better now. It helps that Hagane is going to be okay, even if we don't know when is he going to wake up, Naruto told her. So, how about you? Are you any better? I see you're no longer using a crutch. Hinata smiled brightly. Both Haku-kun and I recovered fully shortly before your return to Konoha. The next mission, we will be there for you. That's great to hear. Let's hope Kurenai-sensei gives birth soon so the whole squad can be reunited again, Naruto said, smiling back. By the way, I wanted to ask, what happened to the cursed seals of the branch house members? Niji told me you found a way to undo them. Hinata's smile grew even wider. Yes. It took some time, effort, and a lot of trial and error, but I found a way around it. Before Naruto could ask how, Hinata waved her hand, creating a single truth-seeking ball. Truth-seeking balls contain yin-yang release, which nullify ninjutsu. That got me thinking if it could nullify fuinjutsu as well. After some testing, I managed to successfully turn an explosive tag into a mere piece of paper without destroying it. Then, I made my first test on Niji Nizan, who volunteered to be the first human test, when he heard what I was trying to do. It worked perfectly, and after a few days, I managed to remove every single caged bird seal. There's nothing now that makes any Hyuga better or superior to another. The clan is finally unified. That's awesome. I knew that one day you'll change your clan for the better, Naruto replied, smiling earnestly. Hinata smiled and giggled in return, before her expression turned a little more serious. Well, I can't help but feel that all of this is possible because of the Tensigen, Hinata reflected. I mean, I was able to enforce this new policies thanks to my new power, and remove the caged bird seal with the truth-seeking balls that came with it. What if I didn't have any of those? Naruto chuckled. You know, Mom always gets mad when I bring up possible fatalist scenarios. Now I understand why, the blonde said with a chuckle. Obviously, you wouldn't have been able to do all of these. But think about this, you were given a great power, and rather than using it to your own benefit, you used it to make the lives of your clansmen better. Not to mention that you also shared part of that power with your little sister. Hinata rubbed her arm, her cheeks turned a shade of pink at the receiving praise. Well, that's what I always wanted to do, that's what I mean, Naruto replied. You should focus on how much you're helping with your power, not how you'd be able to help if you didn't have it. Hinata nodded. I guess you are right. Heh, talking with you made me understand a little how the others feel when I get all mopey, Naruto replied. Nobody said that you have no right to feel sad when bad things happen, Naruto-kun, Hinata gently reminded. But excessively pondering over potential scenarios isn't healthy either, Naruto replied. Anyway, how have you been doing since I was out? Hinata stood up and did a little spin around her feet. As you can see, I'm completely recovered, Hinata said. And now I'm resuming my training. Hanabi and I are trying to reach the second level of the Tensigen chakra cloak. Naruto nodded. While he didn't see it personally, Kaida and Hanabi told the others how Tonari had gotten back from the brink with a stronger Tensigen cloak, which not only made his jutsu more powerful, but allowed him to summon up to 4 truth-seeking balls. It was natural that Hinata and Hanabi wanted to catch up, not just for their sakes, but for everybody else's. I just remembered something, Naruto said. When Hagane apparently defeated Tonari, he had managed to somehow bypass the truth-seeking ball's ability to nullify ninjutsu with his Rasengan. Yes, Hanabi told me that already, Hinata replied. Turns out the truth-seeking ball isn't all that infallible as we thought. Hagane thought that every jutsu had a weakness, and it seems that he was right, Naruto continued. And given that both you and your sister can produce truth-seeking balls, maybe we could try to figure out what he did? Since we can't ask Hagane, and I don't want a Yamanaka to scan his mind just for that. Of course, Hinata said with a nod. We can start now if you dash, Heluu, a cheerful but extremely loud voice boomed from above. A white, tan, and green blur crashed into the dojo like a meteor, producing a loud thud, and leaving some cracks in the landing zone. Fu is here. Ready for your flight lessons? Oh, Hinata said, a little dejected. I forgot that I already had appointments. Hey, don't worry, we can do that any other time, Naruto said. Hey, Fu. Naruto. Good to see you back on your feet, the bubbly girl said as he rushed to the blonde and gave him a bone-crushing bear hug. Are you feeling any better? Ack, the blonde croaked in pain, before Fu released his loving embrace of pain. Why yeah, I was in a kind of a funk, but I'm better now. Good to hear it. Though, I'm very sorry for what happened to your brother, Fu said, gently patting Naruto in the shoulder. But from what I heard, he's going to be okay, right? He's out of danger, yes, Naruto replied. We're hoping he can fully recover soon. Great, Fu said, before turning at Hinata. Your sister isn't coming? Oh, yes. She must not have seen you, Hinata deduced, before leaving the two Jinchuriki alone in the dojo. I'll go fetch her. While Hinata went to look for her sister, Naruto continued to engage Fu in a small talk. It's been quite some time since he and the fellow Jinchuriki spent some time together. So, are you getting used to Konoha? Naruto asked. I know it took me a while to adapt living in another village. I won't deny I do miss Taki, the tall girl said, her mouth curved into a melancholic smile. But Konoha is pretty cool. Though I'm still getting used how big Konoha is. I could fly from one end of Taki to another in less than 5 minutes, while it takes me almost 4 times as much to do the same with Konoha. Hey, we're a great village for a reason, hee, Naruto said, grinning as he placed his hands behind his head. Where are you living, by the way? Shino was kind enough to offer me stay in his clan's compound, Fu said. It's pretty big and have plenty of room to spare. His clansmen are rather quiet and stoic, but very kind people when you get to know them. You and Shino are already living together? Naruto asked. Wow, you're surely taking things fast. Fu put her hands on her hips as she narrowed her eyes at Naruto. Hey! It's not that we're sleeping together or anything, the green-haired girl protested. We simply want to enjoy an opportunity to spend quality time before I return home. Long-distance relationships are kind of hard. Not all of us are lucky enough to find love in the same village. Hey, don't worry, I was just making an observation, Naruto said, raising his hands in a defensive manner. Even if you were sleeping together, I wouldn't judge you. Though now that you mention it, I wonder if Shino will be ready to take our relationship to the next level. Fu started to wonder, as she rested her chin on her hand. We're back, Hinata announced, as she and Hanabi returned to the dojo. Come on, let's begin, Hanabi impatiently said. Sure thing, Fu said. Anyway, we'll have to catch up later, Naruto. Being a sensei keeps me quite occupied, hehe. Again, sorry that I wasn't able to spend more time with you, Naruto-kun, Hinata apologized, bowing slightly. Hey, it's okay. There will be more time to hang out, especially now that you're back in shape, Naruto reassured. The three girls took off into the sky, while Naruto left the dojo by feet. By the way, what were you and Naruto-kun talking about? Hinata asked. I feel that I interrupted something. Oh, there's nothing you should worry about, Fu replied in a nonchalant tone. Say, Hinata, did you and Naruto have sex already? Akatsuki Lair, undisclosed location. A week later, inside yet another underground cave, the Akatsuki were gathered to seal the four tails into the demonic statue. Without Kisame and Deidara, the process had took them the best part of a week, but much to the relief of the two present members and four astral projections, the sealing was reaching its end. The last few bits of tailed beast chakra left Rashi's mouth as they were absorbed into the statue. The chakra field that kept the former Jinchuriki suspended in mid-air disappeared, and Rashi's body fell to the ground below with a thud. His long life had finally come to a tragic end. Right after that, one of the statue's closed eyes opened, while its mouth snapped shut. It is done, Pain declared. The sealing of the four tails is complete. Heh, 6 beasts out of 9. We're doing pretty good if I may give my opinion, the white half of Zetsu said, smiling happily. It may be the case, but we shouldn't let our streak of victories drop our guard, Conan said in an almost chiding tone. Konoha is growing desperate, and it shows. Rather than their usual 4-man squads, they sent a team of 10 people to stop Orochimaru and Tonari. Not to mention that among that group was Itachi Uchiha, 2 would release users and a Tensigan wielder. Next time, they might send an even more powerful force. Your concern is understandable, Conan, but there won't be at the next time, Obito interceded. Zetsu here told me that Konoha is unaware of the 8 Tails location, nor that we dispatched a team to retrieve it. Once the 8 Tails is in our possession, all what's left will be the capture of the 7 and 9 Tails, both of them in Konoha. Speaking of which, Pain spoke up. Do we have any news on Kisame and Deidara's progress? I was expecting that they should be here with the 8 Tails by the time we were done sealing the 4 Tails. Apparently, there has been some logistic problems that delayed their progress, White Zetsu said. The two of them were too far apart from each other, and thus they took a few days just to gather, Black Zetsu continued. The last time we heard of them, they had successfully infiltrated the Land of Lightning. I believe they will capture the 8 Tails Jinchuriki within the next 3 days at the latest. If I may speak, Tonari interceded. It's to my knowledge that we have half the 9 Tails. Shouldn't we seal it as well? For the time being, let's not, Pain replied with a head shake. Not only is the 9 Tails an useful asset that helped us catch a Jinchuriki, but we should seal it once we have both halves under our control. Besides, the 9 Tails should be sealed last, Obito continued. It's the most powerful of the 9, and it could destabilize the other beasts within the statue without the other 8 first. I see, Tonari replied. In that case, I have nothing else to say. Very well then. We can use this time to rest and prepare for what comes next, Pain declared. He made a hand seal, and the statue slowly sank into THR ground, until it disappeared completely. Meeting dismissed. And with that, the four astral images of the Akatsuki not present vanished, leaving Orochimaru and Tonari alone with the other. Orochimaru cracked his neck and stretched his limbs. If I knew it would take this long, would have voted against sending Kisame and Deidara to catch another Jinchuriki before sealing the one we captured first, Orochimaru complained. It's a mostly unpleasant experience, yes, Tonari agreed. He then noticed Orochimaru walking towards Rashi's corpse. Wait, what are you doing? I'm taking it with me, Orochimaru said, as he sealed the body inside a storage scroll. Why? Did you want it yourself? Why would I want the corpse of an old man? Tonari asked in disgust. Why would you want the corpse of an old man? A ninja's corpse contains plenty of secrets, and this one is no exception, Orochimaru said. This old man was able to use the lava release bloodline limit. If I study his body, I might be able to replicate it in somebody else. Did anybody tell you that you're a grim, creepy man, Orochimaru? Tonari asked the Sannin. Orochimaru nonchalantly shrugged and grinned. I've been called worse. If there's nothing left to discuss, I'll be taking my leave. See you during our next meeting, Tonari-kun. Both the Sannin and the Otsutsuki left the underground cave, going their separate ways until Pain would recall them again for new missions. It didn't take long for Naruto to return to the hospital. Unfortunately, it wasn't because his little brother had finally woke up from his coma. While stable, Hagane was still unconscious, and the medics still weren't able to tell when he would wake up. However, the reason for his visit to the hospital was one of joy. Kurenai had finally given birth. She was watching her husband train his students, and Sai, who tagged along more and more often, usually at Ino's request, when her water broke. It was a good thing Asuma and his team were there, since they were able to bring her to the hospital with utmost celerity, and Ino's medic nin training came in handy to help Kurenai until the red-eyed woman was in the hands of better doctors. After nearly a whole day of labor, Kurenai had given birth to a healthy baby girl. And after Shikamaru, Ino, and Choji had spent quite some time watching over the newest member of the Sarutobi clan, the Genjutsu mistress had requested for her students to be present as well. Prior marrying you, they're the closest thing I have to a family, the raven-haired woman had said. And now, it was the assault squad's turn to see and admire their sensei's daughter. Ah, she's really cute, Hinata cooed. She looks like Kurenai-sensei. All newborns look the same to me, Haku admitted. Seiichi-kun looked the same when he was born as well. What's her name? Naruto asked. Both Asuma and Kurenai looked at each other and smiled, remembering how much importance Naruto had placed on a meaningful name. We decided to name her Mirai, Kurenai revealed. Mirai, Naruto repeated, as if tasting the name, before grinning and giving his sensei a thumbs up. Sounds cool. I like it. Good to see that our chosen name passed your test, Naruto, Asuma admitted with a chuckle. I know it may be a bit early to ask, Haku began, sounding somewhat bashful. But you think you'll be able to return to duty soon? Yugao-san returned to active duty only a couple days after giving birth. Of course, Kurenai told Haku. She could see how both Naruto and Hinata beamed as well. Trust me, apart from finally being able to hold my daughter in my arms, I also couldn't wait to give birth already so I could get back to action. I know you guys have been going through a rough time. That's putting it lightly, Naruto said, sounding a little sour. So, does that mean that you won't continue training under me then? Asuma asked. Of course not. Naruto replied. We've been doing quite a lot of breakthroughs when it comes to wind jutsu. It would be stupid to stop now. I also want to do missions with you again, Sensei, Hinata told her. Without you it hasn't been the same. Well, we're going to need babysitters to take care of her when both of us are busy, so how about a D rank? Asuma asked. Upon seeing 3 foreigners headed towards his direction, he raised his arms in defense. Kidding. Nobody in their right mind would make you do a D rank. Kurenai laughed at her husband's attempt at a joke, and the rest of them spent the next hour both talking to each other and watching Little Mirai. Orochimaru's hideout, undisclosed location. A few days after he and Tonari went their separate ways, Orochimaru had finally arrived at his main hideout. He was really hoping that Kisame and Deidara would take their sweet time with the Eight Tails, since between the battle against Konoha, the sealing of the Four Tails and the subsequent trip, the snake Sannin felt truly tired. It seems that even with all the improvements I made to this body, I'm still close to my limit, the pale man reflected. It will be something that I'll need to tackle soon. I can't afford to have a body so unreliable. Once within the safety of his lair, Orochimaru was greeted by his number one lackey, the bespectacled medic known as Kabuto. Welcome back, Orochimaru-sama, the silver-haired man said. I presume your mission was a success. You presume well, Kabuto, Orochimaru confirmed with a nod. How have been things here while I've been absent? I trust nothing happened. At this, the medic grew a little uneasy. For the most part, yes. Though there has been a certain individual who has been a major source of troubles lately. It didn't take a genius to know who was the bespectacled man talking about. Let me guess, Hibiko? Orochimaru asked. Yes. The rather unfortunate loss of her brother has been a major source of distress to her, Kabuto began. She has tried many times to gather several of our ninjas and head to Konoha to rescue her brother. In the end, I had to lock her up in a cell. I should have foreseen this would happen, the Sannin said, shaking his head. I knew their attachment to each other would become troublesome for this very reason. I believe the wisest course of action is to talk to her, Kabuto suggested. Orochimaru nodded. Indeed. I'll visit her immediately. Hopefully my words will be able to soothe her concerns. What if you fail? Kabuto asked. If she becomes a nuisance rather than an asset, I guess we'd have no other option but to terminate her, Orochimaru replied, thoughts sounding a little saddened at the possibility. Even if neither she nor her brother are indispensable to me anymore, they were strong minions, and it would be a pity if I had to get rid of them. Hibiko and Hebamaru helped the snake Sannin to make plenty of breakthroughs in his investigation on the wood release and senjutsu. However, he had managed to cultivate enough of their cells as not to need them anymore. That's why he had no qualms abandoning Hebamaru the moment the white-haired ninja had become a liability. Still, Hibiko could have some uses yet. It didn't take long for the Sannin to reach the cells. One of them was actively guarded by two of his balaclava-wearing Odo ninjas, Chunin, if their uniform was any indication. The fools wouldn't stand a chance against Hibiko if the girl decided to break free. Upon seeing their master, the two of them stood to attention. Open the cell, then leave, Orochimaru commanded. Yes, Orochimaru-sama, the two of them obediently chorused before carrying out their orders. Inside the cell, Hibiko was sitting on a bench, both arms and legs crossed, an expression of unamusement plastered on her face. Orochimaru had the impression she knew that he would come to talk to her. Ah, my dear, Orochimaru began, trying to sound friendly. I was told you abandoned him, Hibiko spat, interrupting the Sannin. Orochimaru was taken aback. While he could sense the unbridled anger boiling beneath her, her calmness was off-putting. He was expecting her to yell, to shout, to throw a tantrum. But this it showed how much Hebamaru's loss had affected her. Yes, I did, Orochimaru admitted, his tone turning colder. Why, was all she asked. Was the mission more important than his life? Yes, the mission was important, Orochimaru said. Hibiko was going to say something, but Orochimaru silenced her by raising his hand. But I didn't abandon your brother to die. Somehow, I find that hard to believe, Hibiko scoffed. It's true. Had it been another enemy, I would have tried to rescue Hebamaru, even if that meant putting the mission at risk, Orochimaru said in a reassuring tone. But not with Konoha, the white-haired woman concluded. With Konoha, Abandoning him is something I could have afforded, Orochimaru began. Your brother will be fine. I know they're ninjas, and I know they're Kage. Due to the fact that the genetic template I used to create you being those of his own children, Jiraiya foolishly thinks of you as his children as well. And that sentimental idiot would never try something that would end in Hebamaru permanently damaged. But if you need additional consolation, Akatsuki will attack Konoha soon in order to capture the last two Jinchuriki. We can take advantage of that and free your brother when we're at it. There was a very tense moment of silence while Hibiko absorbed Orochimaru's words and pondered on them. After what appeared to be an eternity, she gave him his answer. You promise? Hibiko asked. You know how important you two are to me. I'd never abandon you for real, Orochimaru told the young woman. Now come on. There's still much work to do.